Hi there, Comrade Silicon here, being joined by a bunch of my friends here. We got Johnny, it's Johnny Rose, shilOMG, and HollyRumble. Hope everyone's uh, ready for like a bit of a return to something done last year, where we kind of like do a preview for the NFL season. First off, this week we're going to be previewing the AFC. Next week is the NFC, and the week after that we'll be doing overall predictions for like the schedule, playoffs, awards, and just kind of like some other random rambling on. But yeah, we got quite a few teams to go through. All 16 within the AFC. Going to be going division by division, East, North. Vikings are the whole division all of a sudden. East, North, West, South, and going to be going from first place to last place with each division as we go around. Going to be going up to 10 minutes for each team, or if we feel like we don't really have anything else to talk about, honestly. But yeah, hope everyone's ready to go ahead and have some little bit of a chill time now as we kind of like go through our notes. Let me go ahead and before we start, actually, is there anything anyone would like to talk about? Anything you'd like to bring up first?
My team's getting better defensively. I'm happy.
My team did something that wasn't newsworthy for once this fucking off season. So
No,
I'm happy about that.
You guys went out and you were like, "Hey, let's get the most explosive running back from 6 years ago."
Oh, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about the trade we made like yesterday. It was a pick swap for 2 years in the future and a depth piece.
Yeah,
normal trades. Let's go.
Yeah, normal trade that actually makes sense.
And not worrying about contracts.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
still waiting for news on that Ayuk. Give me the Ayuk news. Just
Ollie, I'm
sign
sorry
him
that
for
Ayuk
9
news
years
ain't
of-
happening now.
It has
Antonio
to.
Brown through CST or CTE SPN says that he only wants to play with the Steelers.
There was a moment. I'll talk about this briefly. It's Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell talking about like, you think you got CTSE and Le'Veon Bell's like, no, and then he fumbles like I think the name of like the broadcast they're talking about, and it's just like, buddy, you fucked up immediately. I'm worried about you, Le'Veon.
Oh no, Lord. But yeah, sorry, I'm kind of I was last week. I was like, oh yeah, Ayuk definitely Steelers. This week, I'm now like, all right, it would have happened if that was gonna happen. He's gonna be a 49er.
I just want something. Give me some sort of.
God, that'd be so cool to see Pickens and Ayuk. That would be so great for Pittsburgh.
I did see a report that said no matter if they get Ayuk or not, they're planning on paying Pickens, and that was my biggest gripe, since the Steelers don't always pay their wide receivers, so they can manage to keep him and bring in a quality wide receiver too.
It would be, I also think, an idiotic move for hypothetically they don't buy you, because I would have a worrisome feeling he might sit out. I was like, please don't do that. Just play the game.
They did draft a guy pretty high too, so
yeah,
it seems like they've got some sort of faith.
Yeah. I mean, that's Steelers always do that. They just always make sure to draft a wide receiver in like day 2.
Yep.
Who turns out to be like really good for them, and then blames Silence on the next team he goes to.
Hey, give
Chase Claypool is out of the league.
Chase Claypool too.
Listen, Martavius Bryant just signed with the Commanders. Okay, he's fine.
Yeah, I think that might be a little bit good enough for our preamble on things, I guess. Just kind of like wet the whistle. But yeah, let's go ahead and get ourselves started on our first team. Let's go ahead and head on over to Lake Erie for the Buffalo Bills as we start with the AFC East. Let me go ahead and mention some things first off the bat. Alright, okay. Buffalo Bills finished first, obviously, in their division. Going into the 2024 season, though, they are expected to face the 7th easiest strength of schedule and the 13th easiest if you look out of the division, which is essentially where they were at the end of last year's actual strength of schedule. They're forecast to win 10.5 games, favored in 11, underdogs in 6 with an average line of -1.6. Coaching staff is a little new, a little old. Sean McDermott is going to be there for his 8th year. Joe Brady is sort of there for his 2nd year since he took over midway through last season when the other coach got fired for already having a very good, efficient offense. It's just that Allen was turning the ball over a lot. And then Bobby Babbage, I didn't check out how to pronounce his name, is the new DC. He was the linebacker coach for Buffalo before. So this team...
Continued in-house hire, that works.
Yeah. This team lost Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis, but got Curtis Samuel, Matt Collins, and rookie Keon Coleman as new wide receivers. They also lost Leonard Floyd and Shaq Lawson on the edge, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer on safety, and Tre'Davious White on cornerback. But at the same... Oh, no, actually, no, I was going to say, but they got replacements. Nope. Lost their center, Mitch Morse, and lost defensive linemen Jordan Phillips and Tuna Port. It is a very new defense where they have to refill everyone with the young players. That might actually be more important than their skill position at this point.
Yeah,
You also
and that
mentioned-
Matt Milano news.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
That is very bad for them because he was like their actual cornerstone on the defense.
Very
He
good
probably
play
would
caller.
have. He probably would have carried them further through the playoffs had he been healthy last season. And they were so high on him coming back and being able to start the season off well, and now he's not even going to play one single snap.
Like-
Nope.
They still have good young players there. It's just that thing of, oh, you lost your veteran who was the leader of the defense. Oh, how's
Your
this going to
green
look
dot.
now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's gonna be rough for Buffalo, I think.
I think they're very high on Keon Coleman though. I don't think they would have let Diggs walk if
Yeah.
they weren't. Right now he's slotted as the number 2 wide receiver behind Khalil Shakir though, probably just because of the veteran status though.
Yeah.
If I were to take any assumptions, but maybe we can see a breakout season with Curtis Samuel since he's got kind of that question mark on wide receiver 1, 2, and 3. I feel like that's very up in the air, and if any of these guys perform well in week 1, they could steal that slot.
Yeah, I also imagine Dalton Kincaid's probably going to get more playing
Oh,
time
big
this
time.
year.
Oh, probably.
And because I feel like even though Dawson Knox got more snaps, I feel like you got to shift the guard there and give Kincaid more snaps because he was a weapon used very well, but just not often enough because he wasn't seeing the field enough.
They'll probably insert him as wide receiver too in question mark
Essentially.
situations. Put him
Yeah.
and Knox out there. Then you can call a run, or I think that they will have more ability with them having 2 competent tight ends, but we'll see what they do with it.
Like
Yeah, 'cause-
going to tight ends again, it was something noticeable too that after Joe Brady took over, he did try to go into like more tight end usage, more like heavy personnel, but then their tight ends got injured, so they had to go into like 11 personnel, which wasn't working.
I feel like Knox got really injured like a couple of times at the end of the season last year. I can't.
Yeah, you got banged up a little bit.
I believe it was. Yeah, I don't remember if it was. I think it was lower leg issues. I believe. this
Oh.
season.
Them low tackles, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Which-
still listed as questionable at the moment.
But James Cook was one of the leaders in rushing last year, in the top 5 at least, which surprised me.
Which was
Oh, yeah.
surprising because if you watch that season like game by game, very early on he wasn't as featured as much as he should have been. Is the biggest thing. Like the first I think 6 or so games, it was still like a running back by committee and not really feeding the ball as much as you could have. And then second half of the season again, probably because of the offensive coordinator switch, they rode James Cook a bit more and it paid off heavily.
hmm Let James cook.
Yeah,
He made about 1,122 yards.
it's not bad.
Damn,
especially
good
for a
rib.
season.
Yeah.
Might be a sneaky good pick in fantasy people then.
Yeah.
Oh, I also kind of like noticed too, like there was some. This is something I'm probably gonna bring up with some other teams as well. Projections for schedules on like different sides of the ball, and noticed that on defense last year they faced the 13th toughest schedule, and will be actually getting, or predicted to face the third toughest, like passing the defense schedule this year, which is probably going to be a little challenging on a pass catching group that's trying to work with each other, just get acquainted with each other. Some people that need to, like Keon Coleman, still needs to get his reps in. And the defense is going to have the harder time, not just because of those replacements, all the new people there having to step up, but also because they're going from one of the easiest schedule of offenses faced last year to facing the 12th toughest this year. So that's going to be a trial by fire too.
I will say, no, go ahead, Sean. Go ahead.
So, well, if it comes down to it, looking at it, speaking of, if they need to like be fighting for a spot at the end of the season, they're in luck because they've got New England 2 out of those last 3 games, and depending on how the Jets look, that's those last 3 games right there.
Yeah. And we know that the Dolphins don't play well in cold weather, so they've got their home game on lock too.
I think the Dolphins face Buffalo in Buffalo in like fall though, so
it's week 2.
Yeah.
Oh, lucky Dolphins.
Yeah, I also think, again, due to all the injuries defensively, I think the first, I'd say probably 6 weeks, is going to be a very heavy telling point of if this defense can click, especially without, veterans and anchors on the defense. Someone's honestly going to have to step up, like, as that defensive leader, because if not, it's going to be a shootout every single game, and Josh Allen is really good, but that offense also is kind of young and kind of inexperienced as well, outside of Allen, of course, and it's just going to be difficult.
At the same time, if you're making Josh Allen get into a shootout, there's also the Josh Allen problem where he's going to potentially throw a lot of picks.
Oh, he's going to do that thing where he runs back 20 yards to try to throw 40 yards downfield.
Josh Allen plays quarterback sometimes like you play Madden. It's just...
He's a better version of Jameis Winston.
Yeah. I want to see him succeed, but, like, you've got to like play with your players and not play yourself, basically. Like you can't be constantly doing these 5-yard runs at the goal line, because that's where you're like, I'm gonna extend and stretch the ball, and you're gonna get punched out, and you're gonna look like a fool, and you're turning the ball over, and that's all the momentum killer. So
there's sorry, go ahead.
No, I knew I was done.
Okay. There was another thing kind of related to Allen that I also made sure to note is a very big thing for regression to mean that's probably going to hurt them is like their sack margin, because they had a plus 30 margin. And that is like, especially with the new defensive line starters, as well as some changes on the offensive line as well. That's probably going to go against them next year. I don't know if it'll be like negative necessarily, but it'll at least get closer to like a plus minus 0. And that can impact them kind of greatly. With all Josh Allen's on this team, I can't count them out of the playoff contention, but this is gonna probably be a growing pains year, especially those first couple months.
Yeah, I unfortunately see their Super Bowl window very much closing at this point. Like, you're still the same, but you're progressively gonna slightly get worse. Is the biggest thing. Like, you're gonna have to start paying more players. Is Josh Allen going to get fed up, honestly, of getting to the playoffs but then losing? It's like, can I go somewhere else and actually succeed? Yeah, again.
Are they going to be one of those teams that makes a splash week 2 with like, hey, Raiders, we want Devontae Adams? Like, what if they make a big play like that? Like, if I feel like if they, well, at the same time, they would need more help on the defense than they would on their offense, most likely. Because like looking at their linebacker room, the only one I really notice is it was Von Miller.
Doesn't make noise the way they're hoping to. That window may already be shut. Like, completely.
Like, I think it's more of like on the side of, I would like to see them, finally get over that hump and like make it to the Super Bowl. But yeah, you might be right. That window might already be closed, and they'll be a playoff team, but they'll lose in the first round possibly, or even the second round. But there's going to be no used to that there. Yeah.
All right, that's pretty much time on the Bills right there. Okay. Well, let's transition over a little bit further down the coast over to Miami, everyone.
This is the AFC North, right?
Oh, did I say Pacific? I mean Atlantic as well. But yeah,
Well, no, right. This is the AFC North, right?
AFC North.
Make this make sense.
no, it's East.
North.
Johnny, I know, it's
Okay.
weird. I don't know how NFL divided it either.
Yeah.
But yeah, Miami Dolphins are predicted to face the 10th easiest strength of schedule, 14th if you look out at division game. 6 spots tougher than last year's actual strength of schedule, so realistically, it doesn't mean too much. Let's see now. They are favored and forecast to win 9.5 games, so they'd be second. They're expected to be second place. Favored in 10 games, underdogs in 7, average line of -1.5. Let's see now. They've got Mike McDaniel and offensive coordinator Frank Smith all returning for their 3rd year, and new defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver, the former Baltimore defensive line coach, who came there after their good defensive coordinator Vic Fangio decided to go ahead and take a better pay to go to Philly with his family.
Fair.
Oh, man.
I think the easiest thing here is their defense just needs to show up, and I
Oh.
think they'll be fine.
A
Speaking
And
of, like,
about
looking
that.
at that
Yeah.
defense is already banged up. Like,
Oh, banged
yeah.
up. That's the big thing.
oh boy.
I haven't got to the players they lost yet.
No, rifle off who they lost, and I'll go from there.
All right, they lost interior defensive lineman Christian Wilkins. They lost edges Emmanuel Ogba, Andrew Van Ginkel, Justin Houston, and Melvin Ingram. They lost cornerbacks Xavier Howard and Eli Apple, safety Deshaun Elliott, right guard Robert Hunt, and left guard Connor Williams, and linebacker Jerome Baker.
So
I mean, they got
11.
some people back to sort of replace, but
So basically, they lost an entire starting defense. If
Yeah.
we're gonna call it
11
that.
players.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think their defense needs to show up relatively enough because that offense, I think, unless Tua doesn't know how to throw to Tyreek Hill anymore or Waddle or hand the ball off,
OBJ.
I think they'll. Or OBJ.
yeah, he's there
my,
now.
He's my 5th favorite LSU receiver of all time. I think they'll be fine. It's just their defense needs to show up, and also down the stretch, you guys got to remember how to win football games again because you kind of forgot how to do that entirely, which was weird because they're just like this. The Denver game. Oh God. This, and then they hit December/January. It's like, oh, it's cold. It's 50 degrees. We don't know how to play in this weather, and it got worse. And
Who
then
would have problems playing in December?
yeah, and then you make it to Kansas City in January, and it's just like, oh, it's cold. I don't know how to throw the football, but it's a revenge game for me," said Tyreek Hill, and he got that 1 touchdown, and they lost by 30 points.
Yeah, there was. There's quite a
Looking at it,
few
they've got. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I will say, McDaniels did prove himself to be for the most part, a really good offensive coordinator because he took the
Yeah.
issues from 2022, especially play action, short yardage, all these different things, and completely turn things around, make them one of the better play action teams, that better at how they handled early downs. Tua became the fastest QB to throw in the league. It's just, man, cold weather and good teams that were playoff ready just destroyed them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I on the whole banged up things, I'm just looking at it and there are 8 players on that defense that are questionable. 2 of them are listed as out, and 2 of them are listed on IR. It is, with all the people they lost, and then on top of that defense is looking brutal right now.
Yeah, they've got some good players, and they added some quality guys in Poyer and Calais Campbell, but there are so many injuries already.
Yeah.
It doesn't help that we're week 2 or 3 into the preseason or whatever. We're weeks out from the regular season is the biggest thing, and you're already dealing with this many injuries.
And you have to expect left tackle Teron Armstead to get injured sometime as well because he's never been healthy a whole season in his whole career.
God, no.
And he's their best player on that line, which lost 2 starters and didn't really do much to try to help it.
It's gonna be so hard trying to figure out who's gonna win that division.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
still-
No, go ahead.
I said I still think it'll be the Dolphins, but who fucking knows?
It's very hard to say because they run a lot of gadget plays and a lot of RPOs. Like I think they probably led the league in RPO last year at least, mostly because again those weapons you have on offense, you can do whatever you want and you'll be a successful play. Especially because I believe it was Raheem Mostert who came back, did well last year. I'm blanking on the rookie's name.
Achan, however you fucking say
Yeah.
his last name. It
Yeah,
changes
however
every
you-
week.
Achan.
Yeah, Achan. Phenomenal
Here's
last
like
year.
different every week.
But it's like, again, there's no real issues on the offense except for consistency later down in the season. But again, the defense just has to show up and get a few stops a game. And I think they win wholeheartedly because it's not hard for them to use Tyreek on wide on deep shots or Jalen Waddle in the middle of the field or whatever Odell's going to do for 3 weeks and then complain. We'll see. It's the biggest thing.
As much as I also talked about how like they made great improvements, especially like getting to it to be better about throwing like shorter and like faster as well. At the same time, he was one of the worst QBs at handling pressure in the league last season, which didn't help that he was behind the offensive line ranked 31st in pass block win rate. He completed only 40.7% of passes when pressured, third lowest mark in the league behind Will Levis and Bryce Young.
Oh boy, behind two very new guys.
Two rookies,
in the
yep.
league. Yeah.
Yeah. If you would have thrown Sam Howell in there somehow, I'd been like, oh god, it gets worse.
Yeah, I also
Sam
found-
Powell's good. Leave him alone.
I also found some issues for the team as a whole when it comes to rest, because they'll have 2 short week road games and 2 games coming off a road Sunday night and Monday night football game, and those are usually instances where like rest actually matters because it's coming off of a primetime game. You have to make all this travel, everything gets funky for the players. Sometimes you don't get like that full healing that you need.
So I imagine 2 of the primetime games are probably going to be Bills and Jets, right? Realistically, I do imagine with the
I don't remember off
Dolphins.
the top of my head.
One of them's the Rams, actually.
Huh?
One of
Monday
them,
night,
one of
November
the
11th,
Nationals?
against the Rams. They got
They
Green
play-
Bay.
They play
Thursday Night
Thursday
Football.
against Buffalo week 2.
Okay, there it is.
And
'Cause I
then
imagine
Monday.
Yeah, Thursday against Green Bay for Thanksgiving as well.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah, they've
On
got
short rest as
2
well.
Thursdays, 2 Mondays. They're getting them in front of the people.
The
Yeah.
Browns in Cleveland, week 17 on prime time.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
wow.
Oh, so when they're
It's
expecting
gonna be
them to fight for a
cold.
wild card spot.
Oh yeah, in the
Oh,
cold
dude.
too. Ooh.
Oh god, that
yeah,
is Cleveland's
yeah.
win then.
They're
Yeah.
expecting like, hey, you guys gotta go in there and beat the narrative. If not, primetime, baby. Everyone's gonna see
So
it.
many of these games are early though for them. Jesus.
On their bye, they gotta like go to like some winter wonderland and be like, "We're doing practice here. Everybody, bring your coats."
Yeah, because I think that's probably for the best because they really don't. Again, being in Miami 50% of the year, and then the other cold
Well, their
teams not
bye
really
is in
playing.
October, actually.
Yeah, so yeah, no, they're really not going to experience cold weather.
I mean-
until it's at their worst for them.
And depending on
They
like
play
the
in Lambeau,
situation, you
too.
have to imagine, because obviously the time's not going to be decided until we get closer to the end of the year. But you have to imagine the Jets game has a shot at being prime time, depending on the situation of the
Yeah.
division.
Hmm
'Cause I could definitely see that
Hate
coming
me.
out the last like 2 or 3 weeks for that division, just
I
depending
think-
on how they play.
Week 13, them in Green Bay on a Thursday
Oh, they're gonna.
at the end of
Oh.
November.
Yeah,
That's
That
gonna
Thanksgiving game is prime time in Green Bay.
Yeah.
Lambeau
That's gonna be
Field.
hell.
Yep, it's gonna be so loud. There's not gonna be any Miami fans that show up to that game.
It's gonna be too cold for them for sure.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I've sat in one of those late November, early December games. Actually, I'm wearing the shirt that I wore to it.
Oh hell
The
yeah!
Lambeau Field.
are.
Hell yeah.
All right. Any like quick things, or do you want to just kind of like move on to the next team? We've only got like never mind. It's time.
I like that Tua's left-handed.
I like that he is
Lefties.
embracing his, like, he's got the full like Brazilian blowout or whatever. He's got whitened
does,
teeth. He's
yeah.
got like he got all tan after spending lots of time with the family this off season, Like he's just like, I'm sick of playing to your narrative. I'm gonna be bougie and I'm gonna look good.
All right, let's go ahead and go to. And a surprise to some people that they
New Jersey.
in different ways that this team got to third. Some expecting better, some expecting worse. Let's go to the New York Jets, or our favorite Jersey team.
Yeah, you guys
Expected
sure
to
do play in New York all the time.
They are expected to face the third easiest strength of schedule, fourth easiest if you don't count divisional games. 14
again.
spots easier than last year's actual, so it is actually a boost for them. And it's also a lot of good for them at the start of the season too, when they're trying to be set up to have a good record, a winning record before they face the Bills in prime time. As what is it? Oh yeah, 49ers at 49ers. That's a loss for them probably on Monday Night Football. And then they go to Tennessee to take on Will Levis. They have their Thursday night home opener against the Patriots, who are bringing Drake Bay out. They then host the Broncos, who I don't know what's happening with them right
Probably
now.
Bo Nix.
Probably Bo Nix. And then they go to the
London
Vikings for the London game, where they face Sam Darnold. And then they get to go. And then they have their Buffalo game on primetime after that.
That kind of sucks that they're making them go from an international game to, well, at least it's a Monday. It's not like a Thursday, but thrust them right into Buffalo.
It's the
Give
NFL
Aaron
trying to
Rodgers
make the
an
Jets
easy
relevant.
schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need Aaron. We need him on
Aaron.
screen.
He's coming back from his darkness retreat.
Again?
Yeah, he's just gonna try to convince everyone 2023 was a conspiracy.
Damn, they have a 4-week period of them playing international, and then
Yeah,
Monday
it's a
night-
lot of
I think
primetime
3
games.
weeks.
They're front loaded. They have 6 primetime games in the
Yeah.
first 11 weeks. 7 if you want to count the London game.
And then Thursday, week 9. That's so many. They're like, Rogers, if you're not gonna make it to the end of the season, you better make it to week 10.
Yeah. It's one of those things where this definitely feels like it weighted to the Jets, of course, unfortunately. Like, no matter how you look at it, there's a good chance we're going to see in the playoffs because of this easy of a schedule. Like, you're going to beat up on the easy teams. Your defense is going to show up.
Ooh.
I hope Garrett Wilson makes that actual step to, main receiver because, again, it's in like, he's a great receiver, but he's had shitty quarterbacks, which is true.
I made sure to put that as a note.
But it's like, he actually, like, if he's going to get a full season with Aaron Rodgers, I'm just saying that Achilles has the best chance or the funniest thing ever. Week 1, 4th snap of the game, maybe. I'm just saying I don't want to see him anymore. But I also just think Bryce Hall is also going to make a good step as a running back as well.
Brees Hall?
Brees Hall, sorry. Brees Hall.
I know it's confusing.
Shiloh, how you think Tyron Smith's gonna hold up?
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh,
It's okay,
It
Shiloh.
still hurts me.
Yeah,
We
don't
all
worry.
lose
He's only going to
players
last 3
sometimes.
games before he gets injured, probably.
Yeah, but you don't lose players at like vital positions that we don't have like placements for all the time.
Oh, yeah, I know. But I wanted to kind of like go back to Garrett Wilson for something as well, is that he is like one of like a handful of wide receivers to start their career with back-to-back 1,000 plus yard seasons. And this is while having the QBs of Zach Wilson, Mike White, Joe Flacco, Trevor Siemian, Tim Boyle, and someone called Chris Streveler. While 16.5% of the passes thrown to him were inaccurate, the only wide receiver who's been given more inaccurate passes during the span was Devontae Adams at 17.2%. Vegas fans, that's just a preamble for later.
Wait,
I know receivers had to deal with like roughly similar stuff like at the beginning of their career and still gotten 1K. His name's Mike Evans.
yeah, his name is...
You're talking with Jameis and like Baker.
Mike Evans, you are great. But that's
Ryan
for next week.
Fitzpatrick.
What's it like having a 1K receiver? I'm just curious.
Don't
It's
worry,
nice.
this is straight
I
London
wouldn't
here.
know.
It's nice actually.
Hey,
Shut up.
I'm just glad that George Pickens got it with Kenny Smallhands, Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and Mitch Trubisky.
Oh, I also,
No. I don't want to get off topic because
We almost did too.
Okay.
The Steelers.
I just wanted to also make sure to go over like the players lost and gained.
Oh yeah.
The coaching staff, there's not really any change. There should have been a change on offensive coordinator, but okay, they lost on edge. They lost Bryce Huff, who went to Philly, so they got Philly edge Son Reddick, who I put as a question mark because I don't know if he's actually gonna be playing at this point.
Now we want out.
Who, Nate? Who?
Who did?
Jets also lost John Franklin Myers and Carl Lawson. I think Carl Lawson just signed with a team today or yesterday. So now
I
they
believe so.
also lost left tackle Dwayne Brown, right tackle Mekhi Becton, left guard Lakin Tomlinson, safety Jordan Whitehead, center Connor McGovern. Oh, they lost. The whole line wasn't too great anyway. And they also lost Zach Wilson. Oh wow, what a loss.
No Super Bowl.
Yeah, they also got left guard John Simpson, left tackle Tyron Smith, where how many games he can play, right tackle Morgan Moses. They drafted Olu Fashanu to be a safety valve on the offensive line. They got Mike Williams as a wide receiver to help Garrett Wilson not be double teamed. And,
Yeah, stay healthy.
yeah, defensive lineman Javon Kinlaw and Tyrod Taylor, who is a much better backup option than what they brought last season.
I'll be very honest with you. That's probably the most surprising name you just said. I thought he was gonna be out of the league. I'll be honest. Good for him still being in the league.
If he gets to be the starter, if he, make sure they draft like a quarterback. If he gets hurt, that whoever comes in is going to be like elite for like the next 10 years.
Yeah, I do.
Wow.
Hey, do any of us think that a quarterback turning 41 during the season, coming off a major leg injury, is going to actually do anything for this team, or if he's just going to be middling at best?
Comeback player of the year.
I think that any quarterback that comes back from a severe leg injury is going to do great and won't have any issues at all. Because if he does do bad, you will find Johnny sweating goddamn bullets watching Kirk Cousins out there.
Listen, Kirk Cousins is at least a few years younger and can actually bounce back somewhat.
I know, but it's like Aaron Rodgers doesn't have enough kick in his passes anymore. I'm just like, what? Huh?
Hey, it's
What do you
okay.
mean?
I mean, by all means, Aaron Rodgers, that 2022 season, he wasn't really old Rodgers then either.
The
So
sad
you have
thing
to
is,
remember, like, 2 more years later off a big injury, he's probably going to finish the season as, like, the 20th ranked QB.
yeah, but if they make the
Probably.
playoffs and like Kirk Cousins plays like an MVP, Rodgers is winning comeback player of the year regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also,
Yeah.
and it's so sad, the most exciting part of this team is their defense. Such a fucking good defense. They're
Yeah.
going to have issues at depth now because they lost so much of the pieces there. But at the same time, it's like, Robert Saleh, you're good at this one thing, huh? You're good at rallying your team to not quit. Wow, it sucks that this is the quarterback situation you have.
Just draft someone for Tyrod Taylor to have come in for him because it's the Tyrod Taylor effect.
Tyler, every time you say his name, my ribs start to hurt. I don't know why. I will say, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Like Justin Herbert, what?
Yeah, I do think the biggest story right now outside of Aaron Rodgers is Hassan Reddick actually going to play is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Because I believe within the span of like an hour this week, it was like Hassan Reddick is probably going to get traded, and then the Jets themselves like, nope,
We're not.
ain't happening, kid, ain't happening. So we'll see how it goes. He is having to pay, I think, $70K a day when he doesn't show up to practice, which to us, that's a lot of money. To him, that's not a lot of money apparently, which, you know, a bit of a bummer if you are a working middle class individual. Yeah, I think they're going to be in a fine position if Rodgers even plays decently.
Yeah. I mean, this is a team that'll make the playoffs if Rodgers is just okay.
Yeah, because the defense can hold, but running back is going to be really good. And then again, Garrett Wilson just needs to have a good breakout year finally. Even though he's been good, it's just like I think this will be the time where He'll be great,
I just
possibly at least.
remember that one play where Zach Wilson threw such a terrible pass. It would have been an easy interception for the cornerback, but Garrett Wilson had to act as DB himself and do a pass breakup on that. And it's like, you need a better situation, my man.
I will say it was at a point last year where they're like trying to make the Jets seem better than they were because of Aaron Rodgers, of course. You're like, Zach Wilson's not that bad. I've seen worse quarterbacks win better and be better. And then like you watch every week and he's like 10 for 25 for like a $115, $120 yards and 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. It's like, no, there's not a lot of quarterbacks in this
They
league that
get
are
8
worse
wins.
than him. The defense.
Yeah.
All right, but that's
Defense in the running game.
yeah, that's
Real quick, can
Yeah.
you just see how much points the defense gave up last year per game?
Here, let me.
Oh, I had that up.
Yeah, I had something like I know like they were
Oh, here we
one of
go.
the best defenses in the league. They were probably like right behind the Browns defense.
The Jets points per game. Where were they? 20.9. They were actually closer to the middle of the pack.
Yeah,
Oh.
but that's still not bad. That's 3 touchdowns. Like,
That's
and
also
right-
with the stress of knowing they had to constantly deal with the turnovers their QB was given.
Yeah, so you take regular
13.
quarterback, casual drives. You know, you're not giving up 20 points a game. You're probably giving up like 18 or 19, maybe 17 points a game. But you know,
Only
you score 3 touchdowns, you win the
teams were
game.
that low for
Yeah.
17 points a game.
So,
So, yeah.
Ravens, Chiefs, and Niners.
Okay, but yeah, it's time to head on over to around the Boston area as we check out the New England Patriots. Oh boy, are new things in store for this team, man. It's
Judging
Oh,
by
boy.
moves that have been made, this is a tank. This is another tank.
they are predicted to face the second toughest strength of schedule, 11th toughest if you don't count divisional games, 9 spots tougher than last year's actual strength of schedule.
Jesus. Why?
Yeah, they're when it comes to how their offense can perform. Hey, at least the passing defense schedule go from second toughest to 19th. Run defense schedule goes from 23rd toughest to 10th. Passing offense against schedule will go from 14th to 6th, and run offense schedule will go from 14th to 7th. So yeah, Gerard Mayo, new coach who was the linebacker coach, and is already fighting with players apparently.
Oh God.
Has things in store for him.
This is just karma for the Super Bowls, isn't it?
Pretty much. Yeah, I'm
this,
okay with it.
this team has
You would, Johnny.
I'm
this team
okay
is
with
tied
it.
for the worst
I know you
expected
are.
win total at 4.5 with the Carolina Panthers. They are underdogs in all 17 games with an average line of plus 5.3, which is a pretty high mark.
Damn.
So offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt from Cleveland and defensive coordinator DeMarcus Covington, who was their defensive line coach. They lost J.C. Jackson, their cornerback, lost right tackles Riley Leaf and Trent Brown, lost quarterback Mac Jones for the better, probably, tight end Mike Gesicki, and I had to make note of him just because running back Ezekiel Elliott. They got their new QB
have
in
to, though.
Drake May, as well as the backup, probably, Jacoby Brissett. I think it's going to be May who starts at this point. They got
He's
left tackle
currently listed
Chakuma
as the-
Okorafor. Second round pick was used on wide receiver Jalen Pope. They got running back Antonio Gibson and tight end Austin Hooper. Who wants to talk about this depressing team first? That's
Just first note, I mean, it probably will change, but at least at the moment, Brissett is currently, at least, this is only ESPN, so
Marked
fucking
as a starter, yeah.
but Brissett is currently listed as the starter.
oh, what were you gonna say, John?
Good. Suffer. Enjoy your years of being bad. All
Yeah, 28
right.
reasons, huh?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it has been a long period of the Patriots being really good. They haven't seen this in a very long period of
Yeah.
time. I think any team, once you hit the bottom, can only go up is the biggest thing. I don't know if this is the coaching staff that's going to do it, is the biggest thing. It's not a good sign if you're fighting with your players and you're arguing starters who, if you're not playing in preseason, you're not going to play in the preseason. And if you're third string, fourth string, you're probably not going to play at all. Don't make those threats because those third stringers, you need backups. And the starters, they're not going to take kindly to, being talked to like that, especially if it's like a genuine threat and not like a motivational tool. I have no real opinions on Drake May. I think he's going to be okay. I think he's going to be good, but I also don't think he's going to start this year. I think they're going to ride Brissett this year. He might get a few games to play in the latter half of the season when everything's decided already. But again, this is probably the worst roster in the league currently. So
I think like the only bright side to this is like Demario Douglas and Ramondre Stevenson, and that is about it for the starters anyway.
Christian Gonzalez is pretty good, but I mean, he's stuck there because he was drafted there a few years ago.
I could also see, again, if depending on how the season goes, like let's say they're 1 or 2 and whatever at the trade deadline, I could see them dealing Ramon Stevenson for maybe like a 2nd or a 3rd or even a 4th. Like, get rid of the players that are good enough that aren't going to really do anything. You're definitely probably not going to end up keeping until you're, good again.
Some of the moves they've made in the offseason already, like just before preseason started, they're clearly going for another very high pick.
Yeah.
I have to imagine they're actually probably going to be playing for one of the top 3 expected tackles because their offensive line is not in a good position and they need to protect their QB. If not that, then they'll pick up Luther Burden from Missouri.
I have no clue who the entire right side of their line is. City Sow? Is that a rookie?
I couldn't tell you.
Oh no, last year.
I don't even know their center.
He was drafted to the team last year.
Hi, Sunday.
Hi, Sunday.
I only know their left tackle because he was the backup for the Steelers last year, and he got chopped because we were having a left tackle battle already. So he's okay. I wouldn't say that he's got much longer left in the league, most likely. So yeah, they're probably going to be really looking for that quarterback protection.
Yeah, they've been again, even before the season started, they've been trimming a lot of fat already. So I imagine more cuts are going to come. That'll be like kind of surprising, but not really. Is the biggest thing. So.
Yeah, they're probably going to be more active around the trade deadline to offload some assets. I also think Drake May is probably going to act. If he doesn't start soon in the schedule, he'll start probably after their Week 9 matchup against the Jets because the pass rushes they'll be facing after that is a lot more relaxed than what they're going to be facing the first half.
Also, I also just genuinely hope that, again, this is not a joke or a rib, but I do hope, a lot of these rookies make it out of the preseason. I would very much like to see them actually play in the regular season.
It's also just if it's anything like their defense is anything like last year, this is going to be a team that's not only bad but not fun to watch because that defense is going to slow games down and it's not going to be fun.
I noticed their offense was like 26 and early down success rate, while the defense was 12. It is very much the opposite looking at things where how the offense performed versus the defense.
Yeah,
but
offense.
They just also don't have the skill position to handle fast-paced games or deep plays. And that's probably people are the best because May is terrible was terrible in college at handling deep passing games. He was 110th out of 137 quarterbacks in 2023 for on-target rate of balls thrown 10 plus yards downfield. Every other QB in the first round was at least top 50.
Oh, that's a little bit of a disparity there.
Yeah. So if Ben Pelt is from the Stefanski offense, which is just a Shanahan Kubiak offshoots itself. So we're gonna probably see this team try to work their tight ends around more, kind of try to find creative ways to use the running game, especially with outside zone. But again, they don't exactly have the talent to get this going fully, so it's gonna be a trial year for a lot of players, as well as coaching staff.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see them do something similar to what the Green Bay Packers did a few years ago in the draft, where they got rid of the guys that they knew they probably could have kept, but then invested a lot in like the second and third rounders, because they've got like 3 or 4 wide receivers that they received within like 2 years, and now every single one of them has the potential to be number 1. So I think that'll be like kind of their plan on what they go for, since they've got either Drake May, and if Drake May doesn't do much, they've got their backup in Joe Milton. I think they'll kind of work with those guys for a long time and see. Try to build around
Joe
them.
Milton.
Yeah.
What college do you attend again?
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, he's a like 50-year-old quarterback. I mean, he's like 26. Who broke his leg.
I heard Joe Milton, according to former players he played with, is the best practice quarterback they've ever seen. But when it comes to actual games, he's just decent, like not great.
He wasn't running for a Heisman for a bit.
Yeah.
Not that the Heisman shows NFL success.
How many
Yeah.
years in a row?
Right, Johnny
4.
Mansell?
Anyways, let's go to the South, shall we?
Well, we're not going to the South quite yet, but
Damn
we
it.
can move
The
on
North.
from now. There's not much else to talk about for the
Kick in the
Patriots
door.
without wanting to drink. All right, let's go ahead and start with the first place team in the AFC North. Let's head on over to Baltimore. Get some crab legs, why don't we? All right, Baltimore
Stinks
Ravens
here.
are expected to face the 6th toughest schedule, and 12th most difficult out of the division. 3 spots easier than last year's schedule. Forecast to win 11.5 games, favored in 14, underdogs in 3, average line of minus 3.6. Coaching staff of Harbaugh for his 17th year, Todd Monken 2nd year, and Zachary Orr, their 4th choice for defensive coordinator, by the way, who was their linebacker
They'll make it
coach.
work.
They lost Patrick Queen to one of their rivals. They lost left guard John Simpson and right guard Kevin Seitler, edges Javian Clowney and Bowser. They lost cornerbacks Ronald Darby and Rocky Sin, wide receivers Devin Duvernay and Odell Beckham Jr. And for the notable players they added is Derrick Henry, left tackle Josh Jones, and rookie Nate Wiggins at cornerback. Hey. I'm going to go ahead and lead off by saying I think this is the 4th place team in the AFC North, despite Lamar Jackson's abilities. But that's just because the AFC North is fucking great.
Fourth place. That's good. That's good. I mean, they don't really have an established number 1 like a lot of the teams. It feels like this year.
They never
Probably Zay, just because of his success last year. But like Shiloh said, they don't really rely on that. They rely on the scramble abilities of Lamar Jackson, and now they're going to probably
And the run
rely on play action and fakes to Derrick Henry. So
Which-
it'll be interesting to see how they trade.
Baltimore. If you could hear me, don't forget to do that in the most important game of your season again.
What do you
When they should have
lean
run
on?
against the worst run defense in the playoffs.
Yeah,
What
don't
do you-
have to
Let's
get that.
stay in the pocket.
Protecting the
It's insane. Lamar Jackson, he's like, I'm gonna beat the accusations that I can't throw the ball. And it's like, no, buddy, this is the
Not now.
time where you run the ball.
Oh, yeah, go ahead and try to pass in rainy weather with high winds.
Yeah.
They honestly, this team they are very strong. They have probably one of the on their defense, they have probably one of the strongest linebacker rooms and just defensive lines in general. And then obviously their running game, just with Lamar being like a multi 1,000 yard rusher, and then now Derrick Henry. Hopefully, I'm kind of thinking Derrick Henry's got his best behind him, but I think with Lamar Jackson being able to now have the option to fake hand off to Derrick Henry, like are you gonna
That's
see
terrifying.
the ball in his arms?
I like this.
Not
Is
when he
one
goes
of
like
this is one of 2 running back additions that in the league that I think actually does help a team. The other one being an NFC East team. But
Mhm.
I also think you could load the backfield with a 3rd running back or a 2nd running back. You can run triple
They got
option.
Ricard too.
Yeah, you could run option plays out the wazoo if you want to. Like genuinely, this. You can go any direction with the run game. It's a big plus.
I just
As for the defense, it's Baltimore. regardless of what they may lose or may not have gone their way, they make defense work. Well, they always have.
That might be so, but it is very notable that they were counting on either their DB coach or the defensive line coach to be the one who became the new DC. And instead, they had to go even further down the line to someone who worked the least, likely the least, with their old defensive coordinator who moved to Seattle to be their head coach. They lost quite a bit of notable players there too. They lost over half of their. No, I think they lost like somewhere around like 60 or 70% of the offensive snaps or defense over the offseason. Like they lost a lot of starters there. They have to work with a defensive coordinator who is much less proven, and we don't know if he's able to handle like the same smart schemes that their old coach, defense coordinator, was able to do. And then on the other side of the ball, this offensive line is lost 3 starters and was relying on Ronnie Staley at left tackle, who can't stay healthy. And they got a 2nd-round pick to try to support him. So you're gonna have to worry about like how much is Lamar gonna be able to handle a clean line? How often is he gonna be allowed to actually operate how he wants to, and how often he's gonna be forced to scramble? His legs, he's still great with that. I just also have the issues of his tight ends haven't been able to be healthy lately either. And his wide receiver room isn't great.
Mark Andrews is already listed as questionable for this year as well as their center in Linderbaum.
They've still got Likely, and Likely fucking killed it when he was out there.
Yeah.
I will say this though. I mean, which is a number that surprised me very much. So, I mean, 17 years as the head coach. I think they're gonna find a way to make the playoffs. He knows his roster top and bottom. He knows what's gonna work. I think Harbaugh will, even if this is probably again one of the hardest divisions to win, I could see them being in as a wild card team.
This is what I said about Allen. Mars there, I can't count this team out of the playoffs still. It's just that they are put into the most uphill battle of any of the teams in their division, despite having probably the best one of the best rosters in the league. It's like they probably have a top 5, not top 8 roster in the league. The issue is there's a lot going against them right now, and it's just hard to see them repeat anything. Like, defense is probably gonna fall apart, so defense should used to be counted on. It's probably not gonna be one of the better defenses in the league like they would like, though.
Yeah, we'll see how removing Pat Queen from that linebacker room, because now it's Trenton Simpson, he was a pretty high linebacker pick a couple of years ago, and he was a high prospect coming out of, I think it was the one with the paw, Clemson. And Clemson, they really the paw. I just saw their logo in my brain. I thought the Steelers were going to try to pick him up, but they waited and then picked a guy up this year. So we'll see if Roquan Smith really was the one lifting all the weights, as the Ravens smeared the shit out of Queen's name when he left the building. But say lovey.
We Chelsea.
Also, I have one other thing to note is that they are the only AFC North team who has both a top 5 toughest strength of schedule, as both including division and taking away divisional games. Everyone else, if you remove divisional games, much easier. Mm-hmm. Ravens are feeling that first place schedule though.
Yeah.
Love it. Put the pressure on them.
Put the pressure on.
Yeah. It's good for the AFC North to be such a good division until you're the first place team trying to come back to that spot.
It's honestly hard being in the AFC North and then looking at teams that like the top team got like 8 of 9 wins, and I'm like, you have to get 11 in this section of the NFL to even think about being a wild card.
Not even looking at the AFC as a large, which is filled with talent now.
Yeah, exactly. So it's tough, but I mean, it makes for really good football.
It does. So who is
Easier to
second
win
place?
back to back than other divisions, though.
Who was second place? I mean, do we have anything else to talk about for Baltimore right now? Like, I will say, their offense was like fourth in EDSR, and their defense was first. So it's like, hey, great team. Reason why they got that first seed.
The
But boy, the playoffs.
He's the only quarterback in the league to throw pass to himself this last
That is
year
true.
and have positive yardage as well. So
One
Lamar
point.
Jackson, he's a different breed. But let's see if they can, like, if they had a number one, like if they got Stephon Diggs, I think we'd be looking at them very
yeah.
different. But they got Derrick Henry, and they're thinking that's their missing ingredient.
Yeah. Oh, God, I am trying to remove myself from any AFC North team.
The bias,
After
right?
what happened, I'm going to go ahead and also be like, man, Henry's gonna be fun to watch. It's the embers of Henry, but he's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Like, the embers of Henry is still better than both starting running backs.
It'll be interesting to see how Kalen DeBoer. That's their DeBoer, right? I'm not thinking of a different college ball thing.
I'm not sure. I don't know who the running backs behind them.
No,
are.
I mean their offensive coordinator, the guy.
Oh, offensive coordinator is Todd Monken.
Tom Bunkin. Okay, Kalen DeBoer,
Yeah.
I think, was the guy who took over Saban's job. That's why his name's coming up. But
By the
That's
way,
right.
Todd Monken proved he's not just an air raid guy last year.
yeah, I mean I was honestly a little bit nervous about going against them with that caliber coming from the collegiate level, but it kind of felt a lot of the same underneath their coaching. So it'll be interesting to see if they're like, okay,
All right.
now let's see what worked previously that we didn't do and implement that. It could be very scary. Could be a really good year for Derrick Henry in fantasy.
That's enough of the old Browns team. As we have to go to the second place team. The new Browns team.
Hey, that's Ben Roethlisberger's stadium.
One point, the most winningest quarterback in that stadium.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Cleveland Browns are expected to face the third toughest expected strength of schedule. But when you remove divisional games, it drops down to 12th easiest.
Yeah, it doesn't look that hard out of the division.
Yeah, there's really just the divisional games that are tough. And 6 games that matter. But it's not bad after
There are a
that.
couple games outside that.
Yeah, there's a couple. But yeah, it's only like 7 spots tougher than last season's actual strength of schedule, so it doesn't mean too much. They're forecast to win 8.5 games, favored in 9, underdogs in 8, average line of -0.5. Rest-wise, they don't have anything to worry about, really. They're actually okay for the most part. Coaching-wise, Kevin Stefanski is returning for his 5th year. Ken Dorsey, former Buffalo offensive coordinator, is here for his first year as they try to find like a new way to go forward. Defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz coming back for a 2nd year after leading them to a historically great defense last season. They lost tight end Harrison Bryant and center. Well, I know that Nick Harris, the center, but they got him back and they're turning him into a fullback. So they don't really lose anyone that mattered.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's officially listed as center/fullback.
And yeah, they've got him in the depth chart as the second best center. Got Ethan Posich or Pokic, however you say his name, as the starting center.
Yeah.
Sure.
They also got in wide receiver Jerry Jeudy for chump change from Denver. They brought in new backup quarterbacks in Jameis Winston and Tyler Huntley. Really, that's where he came. Okay. Linebackers Jordan Hicks and Devin Bush, and I'm striking Michael Hall Jr. from additions for the moment because of certain legal reasons for him.
I am so glad they added Devin Bush. I am so glad he is so washed.
Yeah, I mean, their linebacker core is just really GOK who got paid money. But
Yeah,
deservedly
Devin
so.
Bush,
He's a
yeah.
fucking great player.
He got dropped. He did a season. He got dropped from the Steelers. Did a season with the Seahawks, and he missed so many tackles. I'm surprised that he's in the starting position. In all honesty,
That wide receiver room is really just Amari Cooper. That's what it is.
Oh, I
much.
disagree on
Yeah.
that. This is actually
You think-
probably one of the. It's not filled with
I
talent, but
think-
it's also a actually weirdly well-rounded pass catcher.
I feel like Elijah Moore.
He's not been great.
Yeah, I
Moore's
feel like
Moore's okay.
I feel
He's
like
probably
he's gonna
gonna actually
take that
be
second
better
spot.
than and Cleveland than he was in Denver.
He needs to hold on to the fucking ball.
Yeah, no, yeah.
It feels
that's
like
the
he
biggest
got
issue.
he got very defensive over a lot of like media bullshit too. Like,
Oh yeah, that was weird.
you gotta
Well, Warren
keep
did
your
the
head
same.
out
People
of
were
that.
being. There was a lot of weirdness on both sides.
Yeah, it was like because they saw that poking the bear got a reaction. They were like, let's see what else we can do, and let's just start calling him names, basically. So I'm like, didn't leave the best taste in my mouth, but like if he is able to resurrect his career, go off.
Yeah,
Go
I
off, dude.
His
also
main problem with Denver was his hands, and yeah.
this team also does have to think about like when Nick Chubb comes back from that season-ending injury he had,
Mhm.
where his
The
leg
second
just
time.
went the opposite way, but he's now good. He might be playing in the first month somehow.
Hell yeah.
And even
I think-
then, like that, the running back room behind him is still like fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah, they got Dante Foreman from what was
Yeah,
that? Were they
I
from your
forgot they
team?
picked him up too.
Yeah,
Number 2 is Ford. Obviously, you got Strong Jr. behind them as well.
And it's also just a thing remembering all the constant like turntable the quarterback room was too, having to deal with like Dorian Thomas Robinson. I forget the other quarterbacks' names, and then you had 3
There
good
you go.
games of Joe
DJ
Flacco,
Walker.
and then you saw why Flacco was not allowed on any team.
Well, now he's on the Colts. Now he's
Yeah.
Oy.
training
Backing
at
up AR3.
He was
Yep.
he's like, no, I'm good. I played a half season in Cleveland. I'm okay. I don't
He
wanna
did
go
not
back."
deserve comeback player of the year. He was on the couch. He wasn't injured.
He's like,
Yeah,
what did I come back from?
Yeah, I mean, he
I
even
just
jokes
wasn't
about he should have
signed.
got the award.
Yeah.
But yeah, like looking at all that, like this whole team was injured last season. They were the fourth most injured team, third most injured at quarterback, fifth most injured at offensive line, 14th most injured at defensive back, and most injured linebacker room. And they still made the playoffs. And they got whopped
Yeah.
with the mollywopped, but they still made it.
yeah. Honestly, I think this team is a quarterback away from being a winner.
Yeah,
I say that over because of who the quarterback is.
Yeah, I
as
don't
Well,
wanna
he's
talk
also
about
shown that he's not good. Anyway,
Yeah.
They all have the additional bias on top of his name as well for not enjoying him as a player / person. So it's like, I don't like the Browns, period, but like, I really don't like Deshaun Watson.
I'd argue
Yeah.
the 2 people behind him are better quarterbacks at this point in their careers.
James
Yeah.
Winston got LASIK. Let's watch him.
Davis and Huntley are both better to me.
He'll eat some W's.
There's also like some weird things looking at like progression items that might be coming up for them, because it's like, I mean, obviously not. Their defense statistically is probably going to be worse. Still top 5 because if you look at a lot of things, they'll probably improve greatly in red zone where they were 9th worst for some reason, and that'll be enough to make them still really good there. Their
That was
offense
probably
is filled with.
because-
The offense is one of the best offensive lines. The Njoku,
Yeah.
when he's healthy, is one of the best tight ends in the league. Amari Cooper can take over games sometimes. And it just, man,
Amari is
they get
one
okay
of-
quarterback play. It's the same thing with the Jets. Their defense is going to do a lot. They just need okay quarterback play.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have Amari Cooper, wouldn't it?
I can't.
Such a good hands catcher. I was very enthused when they signed him.
I can't lie. One of the coolest moments last year, at least, was David Njoku accidentally burning part of his face. Him showing up in a mask and then going out there and actively playing with like 1st and 2nd degree burns. I was like, I wouldn't get off the couch over a 1st degree burn of just like on my pinky. And this man's like, I'm gonna go out and be as physical as possible. And it's like, fuck,
You
okay.
go out and get tackled.
Yeah.
Oh boy, but he has some other like forecast stuff for this team. Like I said, rest stuff doesn't really matter too much. They do have like 2 short week road games, but they also get a benefit of like facing teams coming off of short week road games, especially like the Bengals who are coming off of I think it's the Bengals they face, who are like one of those other teams that are going to be playing 3 games in 10 days, and the Browns face them at home on that 3rd game. So it's like, oh, cool.
Oh.
They did add Zadarius Smith to their defense as well. So
Yeah, I think he got injured. I don't know how long though. But still, like,
yeah, he's an older guy.
oh, another great edge rusher to pair with Myles Garrett, huh? I don't think this is Garrett's defensive player of the year still. He got that. He got that.
I don't think it was
Someone
that
else in his
last.
division is probably going to win it.
I think him jumping over the Colts O-line won him Defensive Player of the Year. Blocking that kid.
It's a cool moment, honestly.
But then you look at the stats and you're like, you're
Yeah.
safe from all of these.
That's the biggest thing. It's just like, I understand it's a defensive player of the year. It's like, but you've got to, honest to God, break down the stats, please. Just like a quick, like, oh no, it was this person.
Listen, it's a player award. The players were the
Yeah.
ones who picked him.
Yeah, so it's like,
we can be happy that there's the 2 best edge rush. Well, 2 of the 3 best edge rushers are in the same division.
They're
it's-
all in the AFC too.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you really can't, like, at the end of the day, argue it if it's not a, like, voting thing. It's a player choice thing. It's still technically a voting thing, but like, it's a player choice thing. So it's like,
Yeah. Oh, and how sad! Man, TJ Watt. How sad for him. Oh man, so much adversity, being 2nd place in defensive player of the year voting. Oh man, my heart aches for him. What a fucking privileged thing to be crying about.
I mean, 19 sacks.
I finished 2nd.
I did want to get, we're almost done. Quick thing, one of the bigger question marks outside of quarterback is still that offensive line room. Because it has a lot of talent. The best offensive line coach in the league, Bill Callahan, left to help his son in Tennessee, though.
Oh, is he playing with the Titans organization now?
Yeah, Bill Callahan is helping his son, Brian Callahan, in Tennessee.
Well, at least they retained the guys that already had the knowledge. Because
Yeah.
it seems like they kept, I think their centers, you know? Oh yeah, you said that the Nick Harris thing, or Luke, I don't keep up with the Browns, but like I know that Wyatt Teller, Conklin, Batonio, and maybe Willis has been there for a while.
It's always a surprising thing when people like are kind of surprised, like, why didn't you go outside of house to hire like a new defensive coordinator or whatever? It's like, keep the guys that learned under the guy that was the best at it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
if
mean,
they
it's not
fuck
like
up, then you can fire him.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, the replacement is a decent offensive line coach. It's not like it's going to be terrible all of a sudden. It's just,
Yeah.
you don't have Callahan.
Yeah, so it's just the biggest thing is like, unless he's shit, just try him out.
Yeah. But yeah, don't
They
go
do
ahead
have
and...
I'll say that they have a very talented safety and cornerback room. Like Emerson and Newsome they're very good, but
When
mostly
Ward is there, that's just the best
Exactly.
quarterback in the room. The issue is Ward is always dealing with concussions. He just put on the protocol again in practice.
Yeah, but I feel like it's almost misplaced though. Like it's their cornerback room is more so like for the non-division rivalry, since it's like mostly like run up the gut with the kind of defense that, or the kind of offense that's ran in the north. But like it does make people afraid to throw it and afraid to do those play actions.
But yeah, that'll do it for the Browns. As we look over to the terrible towns now.
Here we go.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are predicted to face the toughest strength of schedule, but when you remove divisional games, it becomes the 15th toughest, so it's middle of the line, really. It's also just going to be 3 spots tougher than their last season, so not much different there. Schedule of defenses they're going to be facing are still tough like they were last year. Schedule of offenses faced are the same level. They're forecast to win 9.5 games, favored in 6. Underdogs in 11. Weird for a team expected to be winning. With an
Right.
average line of plus 1.2.
Better get a lot of those wins early because that schedule is backloaded.
Oh,
Holy
yeah.
fuck.
Y'all
Yeah,
are
the
talking
schedule
about
is
the worst
rough.
schedules in the league.
Oh, the NFL hates the Steelers. Right.
It is the end of
November and December are just disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to talk right
Literally.
now, those last 8 games are versus Ravens,
All-
at Browns, at Bengals,
all of
versus
their
Browns,
division rivalries.
yeah, at Eagles,
Every
at
single
Ravens,
one.
versus Chiefs,
And then
versus Bengals.
Chiefs. Yep.
Oh, that's
It's
disgusting.
every division rivalry within the last 8 games, and then Eagles and Chiefs.
Yeah,
So if they don't get off to a good start, it could be really tough if those other teams haven't already been injured.
yeah. Last year, the Eagles had a similar situation and like difficulty in the second half of the season that just derailed the shit out of them.
Mhm. Then Big Dom left the field, and they never looked back.
Hey,
And even in the
congratulations to
first
Mike
8 games,
Tomlin.
you still got, like, depending on how the Jets are doing, you got the Jets, you got the Cowboys, and the Colts, and then you got the question mark in the Chargers. Oh, that is, he's starting off against the Falcons, so who knows how that's gonna
2
look.
back-to-back rivalry games, not in the division, because it's going against our now, which Nate is about to get to, our new OC came from the Falcons.
Good luck.
organization. And hey, he's a better OC than he is head coach.
Yeah,
We'll
he's better
see.
than Canada, probably. Canada was awful. I can't wait to tell you about him.
Question:
Then
Who's
obviously-
you guys' second string tight end? By the way, I'm just curious.
Big old Darnell Washington.
Guys, watch out for the Darnell Washington run on 3rd and 7. It's gonna happen.
7. And
Yeah,
his nickname is the 6th lineman.
I know, like, Holly, you definitely have more in-depth stuff to say for this team, but I just want to go over coaching real quick.
You're good.
Tomlin needs his magic for an 18th year now.
You didn't know
New offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, who was the Atlanta head coach, who got fired for having a bad offense, and defensive coordinator Terrell Austin back for his 3rd year. They lost wide receivers Deontay Johnson and Allen Robinson, cornerback Patrick Peterson, center Mason Cole, right tackle Chukwuma Okorafor, and they completely changed their quarterback room, getting rid of Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and Mitch Trubisky to bring in Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. They have also brought in linebacker Patrick Queen, cornerback Dante Jackson, safety Deshaun Elliott, offensive tackle Troy Fatanu, and center Zach Frazier. Those last 2 being rookies from the 1st and 2nd round pick, respectively.
Or went out for baby hands.
You will not be missed.
You will not be missed.
I
I love
am
that. He was like
Um,
complaining about wanting to start and then went to go never start a game in Philly.
like, if the whole debacle was like that, he felt disrespected for not being like told that Wilson was coming to the team, but like Wilson was coming on a team friendly 1-year deal where he's getting paid like $50 million or some shit from the Broncos organization. So I think their goal was to have Russell start, try to have some of his Super Bowl quality quarterbacking from years
College
back
apart on
rub off on him, and then not re-sign him. But then he was like, I'm butthurt. I'm out of here. I want to go to the team that I idolized. And they're like,
Okay.
behind Hurts? Okay.
Never
So
gonna
that-
start a game in his life at this point.
that was weirdly dramatic, and I didn't understand a lot of it, but like, if that's what
When
you
your
want.
thing is you want to start, why go to the team where they have their starter locked down until like the end of his career, basically?
Yeah, wasn't his one of the longer ones like Mahomes? They were like trying to really pin him to the team.
That or they're gonna make sure that he stays. Hurts is
Um,
definitely something they're gonna want to make sure he stays.
I already mentioned this, so I'm going to bring this up a little bit briefly too. I think this might be another defensive player of the year style year for TJ Watt, because the Steelers are expected to face the 4th easiest schedule against like teams with pass protection. So have fun with weak O lines and some rookie quarterbacks at points too.
If
So yeah, week
TJ
5 would be great for you, by the way.
Who they play in week 5?
Us.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
Our line is shit. Right now.
Uh-oh.
I am very confident in the O line that we have. It's one of the better ones that we've had for a long time. I mean,
A lot
we
of young
Yeah,
players,
what
but
is
it looks good still.
it's very young. Broderick Jones was our round one last year, and then Troy Fautano. I don't think he's currently projected to play because Dan Moore is, no matter how much they try to fill his role, he is not. Like, they have tried to fill his role at left tackle now 2 years back to back in the draft, and he's just not budging. So it might be another year for them, but I think it's a young O-line, and we've got really, really good running backs this year. I think Jalen Warren, if Najee flops and they end up letting him walk next year, I feel very confident behind Jalen Warren. But we got an Alabama number 22 with Art Smith as the OC. Let's see what kind of magic you can put back in this run game.
Arthur Smith is gonna love the running backs because that's what he loves. But also with the free agent one, for some reason, so it's actually gonna be Cordero Patterson. Who's probably gonna be his favorite player. You just know it. He's gonna forget Pickens exists. But hey, at least this won't be as predictable as the Matt Canada offense, where on early downs when in shotgun, they passed 92% of the time, and on early downs when in pistol, they ran 85% of the time. So defenses knew what was coming by looking at the quarterback.
It was never over the middle.
Pass, run.
No.
Or run.
Line of scrimmage.
Yeah, it was pretty unenthusiastic I was pretty unenthusiastic to watch. But I think Patrick Queen and Landon Roberts, our other inside linebacker, they've been getting really, really hyped because they've been doing those backs on backers with Naj and Jalen Warren. So I've got real high hopes for obviously the two staples in TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, but now with Patrick Queen they did confirm that he's slotted to be the green dot, and he's got the best rated linebacker in the draft last year sitting behind him, and Peyton Wilson out of North Carolina, who, if you didn't know, has no ACLs, so has no chance of losing his ACLs.
Johnny looked
Actually,
like
very
interesting.
That's really interesting, honestly.
And he hasn't had his ACLs for like the last 3 years in college sports, so it's like they were worried that it was going to cause issues, but he's been playing without injury for so long that the Steelers took a chance, and I think this linebacker room is one of the best ones they've had since the early 2000s.
This might be the second best defense in the division too. I trust them more than the Bengals and Ravens defenses right now.
Yeah, I feel like it could go back and forth. Is the biggest thing with the Browns defense. Like, it could just number one, number two, depending on injuries, of course, and then how well the offense holds up. How often the offense on the field.
Besides the quarterback room, the room with the most turnaround on this organization was the corner, because we got, like you said, Pat P and we lost Levi Wallace, who was from the Bills. I don't know where else he may have gone, but added Dante. Oh, probably not. Dante Jackson with the trade with the Panthers to trade Deontay Johnson, DJ for a DJ, and then Deshaun Elliott from the Dolphins. And then there's an undrafted rookie and Beanie Bishop on our nickelback right now. So there's quite a lot of guys fighting in that room. It'll be interesting. I think it'll be a quick turnaround. If you're not doing well, I think you're going to get knocked down to that third string and let somebody else take the step up.
Yeah, I just had one last thing before we went to last place in the division, is that the big question mark here is, just like the thing we talked about before, the quarterback room. In this case, it's that they're moving from Kenny Pickett, who was one of the safest at handling balls, the safest at handling his passes, and like to throw shorts. I mean, this is also something coming up the other two, but was a lot more careful with the ball. And now the two new quarterbacks were bottom 5 in sack avoidance, bottom 5 in comebacks, and bottom 5 in handling pressure, and also like bottom 5 in turnovers. So it's
I get that, but at the same time, Kenny Pickett threw like 8 touchdowns that year. And
Yeah,
Russell was
I know.
26.
He
So I'm
wasn't
like,
good.
I think he had that like weird pressure in his own brain that it was like, it's about ball control. If I lose this ball, I lose the starting position. And I think that hindered his play. So I mean, obviously you don't want them to be sacked and lose the ball, but Kenny Pickett, that's your one good thing that you had with this last year. Thanks for not turning it over. Wish you would have put it in the end zone, though.
Yeah. Well,
Like tiny hands, no.
No.
it's time to go back to Ohio now, with the Cincinnati Bengals, who are expected to face the 5th easiest predicted schedule. And if you remove divisional games, it is the easiest schedule. They are 27 spots easier than last year's actual, which is...
Jesus.
Yeah, that's the opposite side. That probably helps. Forecast to win 10.5 games, favored in 14,
Anything to beat
underdogs
Patrick
20.
Mahomes.
Yeah. Average line of -3.5. Oh yeah, they are one of the teams that's playing 3 games in 10 days, as mentioned. It is Week 14 Monday night at Dallas, which is coming off a Thursday night game. So that's even less rest for them. Week 15 is a Sunday game against Tennessee, and then there's Week 16 Thursday night hosting Cleveland. But still, it's not like that's a big travel. It's just the same state. So, not great there. Coaching staff is Zach Taylor for his 6th year. He's also acting as play caller on offense. Lou Anarumo is there for his 6th year as well. This team lost left tackle Jonah Williams, cornerback Jacoby Aluzier, interior defensive lineman DJ Reader, running back Joe Mixon, and wide receiver Tyler Boyd, and added interior defensive lineman Sheldon Rankins, safety Geno Stone, offensive lineman right tackle Trent Brown, and new tackle Amarius Mims, who's currently backup, I believe, as the right tackle. Also added safety Von Bell and wide receiver Jermaine Burton with their 3rd round pick to be their Tyler Boyd replacement.
Dang, I did not notice that the Ravens lost 2 of their high-performing defensive players to rivals. I thought they only lost Queen to the Steelers. I didn't see that Stone went to... They had a gaping wide hole on their defense with Bates going to Atlanta.
Oh yeah, Bates turned out to be magical, and they really missed him.
They should have really invested in him. He could have really changed their secondary, but I think they're really trying to turn things to really allow Trey Hendrickson to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, this is the team in the AFC North I think has the easiest shot. That if Joe Burrow can stay on his feet and not be knocked out at some point, this is the team that probably has the easiest chance to win the division. And I think they're a good shot at getting the 1st seed.
Put him in a Guardian cap.
I think realistically, because this is his 4th year, right? His 4th year in the league.
I believe so.
And half of the time has been spent injured. It's not great. The other half of the time, well, at least 4th year. The other time, they went to the Super Bowl. So if you want to do the off and on again thing, make a Super Bowl push here because next year's going to suck. I do think they have the easiest chance of winning this division. Again, you still have to play,
Walk away from winning.
Steelers. Yeah, Steelers, Browns, you have to play them. But I think this offense is going to be good enough. I think the defense can be okay. Again, losing Bates, big deal. I know it's 2 years removed now, but still, it was a big deal because he was our defensive anchor in Atlanta. I think, again, if Burrow can stay healthy, Jamar can stay healthy, and then the running back room of... I'm blanking on who their running back is now.
Zach Moss,
who's been a backup.
He might actually turn into running back too.
And Chase Brown is
Chase Brown might win the room.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where I think you just have, at this point, and this is not trying to be mean to running backs, a good enough running back room. You can have an elite running back room, 5 or 6 yards.
Losing their starter really, I feel like, hurt their chances of being able to open the playbook for Joe Burrow.
Yeah, but
at the same time, Jake Browning is actually good.
Yeah, I was about to say Jake Browning still ran that offense, and then I don't think he was expected to be as good as he was. So
Yeah, I think he was top 20 in no, I think it was like 15th or 16th in QBR.
yeah. So again,
fuck it, Jamar Chase down there somewhere.
yeah, run the early Patrick Mahomes offense, and you'll be fine. Biggest thing. Yeah, I like this team. I think if I had to pick a team to win this division, unfortunately for Holly and Nate a few years ago, this is the team I would pick. Is the biggest thing, and it's not favoritism. It's just I think this is the best built team, especially with the easiest schedule. Is the biggest thing in the world.
Oh, easiest schedule facing these quarterbacks: Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Will Levis, Aiden O'Connell, and Bryce Young. By the way.
Oh,
That's you're already halfway to the fucking playoffs with those wins. Basically, you just need 4 more wins and you're good.
I think their most underrated addition was Mike Gesicki because it feels like the last couple of teams they were a tight end away of being like a full like weaponized like 2 wide receivers. They've always just like had that revolving door. They're either injured or they're just trying to pick somebody up to make it work. And if Gesicki can pick up what he was able to do back before he was a Patriot.
Yeah.
When he was with the Dolphins, I think that could be a little bit scary, but it'll probably revolve around Chase Brown and Zach Moss moving the ball.
And the Bengals were definitely wanting Brock Bowers to fall to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
I was so glad that the Raiders reached for him. I was like,
I don't know why they did that, but
yeah, especially with Mayer, like he's good.
Yeah.
The Raiders probably panicked because they thought the quarterback was going to be available still.
Best available.
And they didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Brock Bowers. Yeah, we got our guy. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I
EPA,
also
you know?
think that...
EPA.
Oh, sorry. Were you saying something, Tyler?
No, that's all I said.
Oh, okay. I think the defense does also get some help because they are going to be going from facing the 8th toughest schedule of offenses to being expected to face the 2nd easiest. So there's a lot of turnaround there. Like, again, there's those 1st and 2nd year quarterbacks, some who are still in bad situations too. And there's always the thing of like, individual games are weird. They're still going to win some of those still, if not at least half. And it's,
Yeah.
like, I didn't believe in Zach Taylor as a coach or play caller until Burrow's injury, and you saw the offense still look good. It's like
with Browning,
it's like, oh wait, you're actually good at this. You can adjust. What?
That should not have worked as well as it did. Like they beat the Steelers with Browning last year.
They almost they were getting close to getting to the playoffs at some point.
Yeah. And then it was like his last 2 games where he just kind of fell off.
Like you could see the actual like experience there not showing is the biggest thing because again he is inexperienced, so
Yeah,
can't really blame a guy who's just thrown out there.
I know the Bengals are also having their own contract issues because Jamar Chase is holding out in practice for a new contract, and if he gets one soon, sorry if this is a preview for NFC, that's not great for the Cowboys because that just drives their wide receivers' money up even more.
Yeah, and T's already not happy what he's working on. Too unhappy
for other things, please.
We'll get to that later, but I hope the Cowboys start paying their guys soon.
We have so many people we need to pay.
Yeah. Oh, there's just some cap issues there.
Okay,
No,
it's not like
believe it or not, it's out of the teams I like in all the sports. It's not the team with the worst cap issues.
We have a couple minutes still, but I don't really have too much more to say. I'm just going to, I hope Burrow's new haircut doesn't take away his swag, like going like buzz cut for some reason.
That was a choice.
He was cool with the longer hair.
What they call him, Slim Shiesty now.
yeah.
I mean, him and Jamar Chase apparently did it at the same time, since he also showed up buzz cut. But it's like, man, you don't look as cool anymore.
Yeah, he kind of looked like Macaulay Culkin at the
He
same
did,
time.
yeah. So I don't think we really have too much to say because, like, again, easiest schedule. not a lot of changes that happen like overarching, and then we'll just have to see. Again, I would like to see Joe stay healthy the entire year. I don't like seeing quarterbacks get hurt. But...
Yeah, I want to beat the good quarterbacks. I want the good quarterbacks to find other good quarterbacks and have a good competition.
On that note, week 2 at Arrowhead.
Yeah, that should be fun.
Oh,
although the Bengals have had slow starts, so it's a thing of like, I hope this is going to be faster.
If they finally don't for once, maybe we'll see it become Burrowhead again.
I think also the biggest thing is, I don't understand this new thing with like not having your starting quarterbacks play a little bit of preseason is the biggest thing to gel a little bit with the offense and live play against other teams, because that's what the slow starts usually come from. It's like, oh yeah, they didn't play in the preseason at all. I'm like, why not do a drive or a quarter is the biggest thing,
something to get you up to speed again. We just talked about Arrowhead, and I think that's a good way to go ahead and transition over to AFC West as we look over to the Super Bowl champions, somehow the Kansas City Chiefs, who are predicted to face the 9th easiest strength of schedule, but when you remove their divisional games, it is the opposite end as the 4th toughest strength of schedule. And, it's the same strength of schedule they had last year, too. So, now they are forecast to win 11.5 games, favored in 15, underdogs in 2, an average line of -4.5. Andy Reid returns for his 12th year as head coach. Matt Nagy is the offensive coordinator second year. Steve Spagnuolo somehow then become a head coach again, so he's there as the DC for his 6th year. They lost L'Jarius Sneed, a cornerback, and wide receiver. Who cares? Well, really?
MVS.
Yeah. MVS is not going to be on a team.
He's still. I saw that preseason game where they're like, he's still fighting for a position. Isn't he on the Bills now?
I think he's pretty much out of training camp for the Bills at this point. They also lost left tackle Donovan Smith. And wide receivers, they got track stars and Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy. Quarterback, I just put this down because I thought it was funny. They got Carson Wentz as their backup quarterback now. And brought in Irv Smith Jr. as a new tight end, which isn't really a head mover either.
He was a Bengal last year.
He was, yeah.
Ah, man, what a weird teams out there. Again, one of the teams facing like 3 games in 10 days. At Browns versus Texans, and then at Steelers. The Steelers get a benefit with one of these. You might actually have a shot.
That's the biggest benefit of playing the Chiefs late in season, is if they are doing well and they are just smashing it, they will not play Patrick Mahomes. So it's a little hopeful, hoping on it on week 17 and not week 18. But it's Netflix.
Oh wait, that's right. The Texans game is the Wednesday game, and then Steelers is Saturday. Because it's that weird thing. I hate that there's Wednesday games.
Wednesday, it's only because it's a Christmas game.
Ah, that makes sense.
Looks like they play Saturday. Yeah, they play Saturday, and then that Wednesday on Netflix.
Yeah. This is a team where I think we're just gonna see them in the playoffs.
Mahomes is there.
If Mahomes is healthy, we're gonna see him in the playoffs.
Man.
This is a very boring team to talk about. Like, they're gonna be there.
Yeah.
Unless the biggest injury again is Mahomes goes down, because Carson Wentz isn't leading them to the playoffs.
That's true.
I mean, it's not gonna be it's gonna be probably an interesting team to watch. They're gonna win games. We're gonna see probably Taylor Swift a lot this year.
Kadarius Toney's still on the team, so they still have a chance of going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's very low on the depth chart, but he's still with the team.
He's behind Xavier Worthy as the 3rd.
Yeah, this is also... this is such a weird team to look at as well at the same time. Like, I mentioned L'Jarius Sneed as a significant loss because he is a good cornerback. Mm-hmm. But they still have good young quarterbacks still. That's why they let him walk.
Yeah, like, arguably, he was one of the better of, like, the whole season since he had to guard the number 1 guys for every team they were against in the playoffs. But like Trent McDuffie is very good in his own regard. So I feel like they felt comfortable enough that they'd be able to find a number 2 to him, and they still have Justin Reed. They've got some guys who've been on the team for a while, and they're probably willing to take small contracts to stick with Mahomes.
Yeah, I imagine one reason again Snead walked was because, hey, you won a championship. After you win a championship, why not just pursue money at that point? You have your ring. Go get the most money you possibly can. Like, that's about it.
There's also the thing of like everyone talking about like the fall of the Chiefs offense, talking about how like it's just not the same. It's so bad looking now. And then they finished 5th on early down success rate. They were 12th in the red zone, 5th on 3rd down, 10th in overall efficiency, 15th in passing, and 19th in rushing. And it's like it's only a down year because of some other things going on where they couldn't throw far because the receivers couldn't go do anything, and the receivers kept dropping the ball at like the highest rate in the league.
It's just one of those things where like, again, like Patrick Mahomes' biggest thing early in his career, he couldn't throw the short ball. It was always medium to long because again, you have Tyreek, you have those long shots. He learned that because his receiving core did progressively get worse. So it's like he can take the deep shots if he wants. He has Kels out there, so the middle of the field is open. And then checkdowns.
Check down to CEH.
Yeah, and then you just get first downs all the time.
This team also struggled with penalties, but that's a usual thing. Andy Reid's not great at getting his players to play right. But it was even worse last year. Hey, people who think the Chiefs get the refs on their side all the time, they're always penalized more than the other team. In fact, it was worse this year, especially on offensive line. Jawan Taylor should not be on a team at all. He is terrible.
I also very much think that, hey, Andy, maybe get your team together and stop having them, commit crimes.
Yeah.
Or speak at places that they're going to get backlash at.
Well, they just gave that man an extension, so...
Gave him an extension. He's now, like, I think the highest paid kicker of all time.
Yep.
It's still going to be so beautiful when all the Swifties boo him their first game.
Yeah.
Like when he walks out.
Yeah.
I also
want man.
I also wanted to note that it is a noticeable thing, like losing like a Pro Bowl level, even if I forget how he actually performed last season, but losing Donovan Smith at left tackle, and now you're kind of like trying to patch that in with an offensive line that's downgrading still. It's not great there. You have Mahomes' magic and his weird ability to have a grandpa run that confuses everyone still. But I also still don't like this wide receiver room.
It's not a good wide receiver
older.
room.
He's like, what, 35, 36, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So he's up there.
He's on his last contract.
And he was having ups and downs all throughout last season, so you can't count on him to be Pro Bowl level Kelsey anymore.
He only played 10 games.
10
games.
And
34.
I think this wide receiver room might have downgraded in quality somehow, because I am not a worthy believer. I think it's a mistake to pick a wide receiver I can bully in the first round. He is like, he's measured at 5'11", but he's actually at 5'9", and he's like 170 pounds. So he's a track star, but he's not good at he's terrible at catching deep passes. Well, not terrible. That's not what his specialty is. He's better in the slot where he's going to be bullied like shit.
Put some respect on my man's name. Some Longhorn slander. I can't stand for it.
Listen, no undersized receiver has managed to last long in the NFL. The only track star that worked for the Chiefs was Tyreek Hill because he's a big guy. He is 30 pounds heavier than Xavier Worthy.
Hey, hold on. That's not nice. Media room. Cue up the Tavon Austin highlights from college. Let's get those going.
Cowboys
Tavon
legend.
Austin was 5'8", by the way. That's why I'm making this joke, because he didn't last really.
Hey,
And
honestly,
he also just retired, by the way, even though he hasn't been in the league for like 3 years or 4 years.
isn't it kind of a funny thing to think about, though, that they have the guy who broke the record that everybody was freaking out that they got, but they literally have the guy whose record he broke on the roster as well, who he beat by like 0.01 seconds. And that guy is on his third, fourth team, Justin Ross.
Yeah. Wait, he's still in the league?
He's showing as
John
their,
Ross,
their
wasn't it?
or was it
Yes, John Ross.
was it John? Okay.
it was John
then
Ross.
maybe
Yeah,
I'm looking
I
at the
think it
wrong
was
guy.
Yeah, the
The
Bengals picked
sixth-
him. And what
The
a
Yeah,
6th
I
or
gotta-
8th pick in the
I
first
gotta
round.
figure out where John
Yeah,
Ross
who
is
was
on.
never really a good ever.
I think
Well,
Worthy
Oh, he's
could
on
be
the
better than
Eagles.
John Ross, but I don't think he's gonna be the superstar some people think he can be.
Yeah, because John Ross was picked 9th in 2017 in that draft, and now we didn't even know where he was. So it's kind of
That's-
hard to argue the speed factor, but people are giving it the Mahomes
Yeah.
spice.
We already mentioned this. It's Mahomes and Andy Reid. They're gonna
Yeah.
make the playoffs. They're gonna make a run somehow. We can't count them out because of that. Unless Mahomes is out for the season at some point, this is still gonna somehow go to the AFC Championship game.
Hmm.
You know what
Even
my
with
favorite?
Kadarius Toney.
You know what my favorite part about this division is?
Yeah.
It's actually in the West and not in the North or in the.
Oh yeah, because Kansas
East.
City famously in the West.
Well, the other teams are at least in the
In
West.
the West.
Instead of just like, oh, don't worry, this is the AFC North, Miami.
Listen,
or the
Cowboys
AFC
were only kept in the
Miami.
East so they
Yeah.
can keep the rivalries they had.
Just swap the Panthers and the Cowboys. We're good.
No. We need a team to beat up on. No.
All right, let's move on from the Chiefs to the team that somehow managed to get into second in the division with the Las Vegas Raiders, who's ready to go gambling with the team expected to face the 12th toughest strength of schedule,
Seems
9th
very
toughest out of the division, 11 spots tougher than last year's schedule.
Damn.
They are going from a schedule of defenses that was the 21st toughest to the 13th, although passing defenses are also pretty on the easier side. Schedule of offensive space will be going from the 23rd toughest last season to the 16th, so it's not big there. They're forecast to win 6.5 games, favored in 2, underdogs in 15. Average line of plus 2.7. So now they have sort of new head coach Antonio Pierce, who was interim coach after they rightfully got rid of Josh McDaniels. They have Luke Getsy as offensive coordinator, who was the Bears offensive coordinator before he got fired for having a bad offense. And they have Patrick Graham surviving another coaching change, being there for his 3rd year as DC. They lost Hunter Renfrow, who's not signed with the team at this point for wide receiver, so they lost running back Josh Jacobs to the Packers. They lost quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo, tight end Austin Hooper, and defensive lineman Jerry Tillery. But they added defensive lineman Christian Wilkins, quarterback Gardner Minshew, tight end Harrison Bryant, picked up Brock Bowers in the first round when they panicked not getting the quarterback they thought they could get. They got interior offensive lineman Jackson Powers-Jackson with their 2nd round pick to be a starter, running back Alexander Madison, and wide receiver Michael Gallup.
No, they didn't.
They didn't get Gallup? I thought they did.
He retired.
Oh, that's right, he retired. I forgot about that.
A lot of things about this team shocked me a little bit. The coaching change was a very heavy-handed help. Aiden O'Connell actually looked good. Not great, good. Losing Josh Jacobs, I think, is a minus, but not a heavy minus. And I think all the additions, either via drafting or trades or just signings.
I think more of a minus to the running back room was adding Alexander Madison after that really not good season he had with the Vikings.
It's like, guys, don't worry, we got a replacement, but not a great replacement.
Got a
He'll be a
body.
backup, but he's usually better as the backup, though.
That's fair.
Yeah.
He was really good behind Dalvin Cook.
He is that very good secondary punch.
Which is kind of Tony Pollard.
I don't
It's that, though.
see this team being better, but I also don't see them really being worse. I still see this team as a middle of the pack team. They
think-
definitely need to reach for a quarterback next season, possibly.
I
Oh, yeah.
think that Gardner is a reach above Garoppolo, just based on the success that he was able to have with Indianapolis last year, especially them kind of just assuming he'd play like 1 or 2 games at the start and then just sit behind their fancy new rookie. But
Yeah.
like Gardner, he was like way more impressive than I was expecting. But I think the thing that's going to win them games, I think they're going to have a very similar style to what the Steelers did last year. It's going to be very defense heavy. Like Christian Wilkins is the most significant addition to the Max Crosby defense that they already have with like Divine Diablo and like Marcus Epps. I feel like those are all guys that did pretty well in other places they were at, or very well, and now they're all just together on this defense that has something to prove because they've just been looked down upon in the West for so many years. So I think they could be a surprise this year.
I have been getting pilled into believing in this defense slowly, because from just listening to people like me at times, like who are really into like the defensive roster.
Mm-hmm.
It's just there's also the thing of like, oh yeah, they had a lot of luck on their side. Oh shit. Oh, they got a lot of turnover. The reason they beat the Chiefs last season is from getting 2 defensive touchdowns.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And Antonio Pierce is like, aha, we figured out the secret to beating Mahomes. You got lucky, you asshole.
Luck.
Yeah, you take the
luck.
ball away from him and you walk it in the end zone. That's all you have to do.
I mean,
I also feel like the Las Vegas does need a winning team outside of hockey, because that's like all they have. And then again, they're also eventually getting a baseball team of all time. If it's the 70s or 80s, I'll talk more positive about them. But Vegas needs to start winning, because if they don't, this whole rebuilding the city around sports teams is going to look a really big joke.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing about why they didn't have sports teams previously was to prevent betting.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing how much people are actually getting slapped on the wrist for all the betting they're doing. So maybe that has something to do with the fancy new stadium and
yeah,
people
maybe.
walking in. But I mean, I would love to go to their stadium, but obviously it's like 4 times more expensive than all the other tickets on the market. So
Yeah.
hopefully they can put that in. If they don't do well this year, I think it would be better for them, so that they could get a top level quarterback and try to do what the Texans are doing to attract some attention from those top wide receivers in the league. But Devontae Adams, I feel like he's going to have a very short fuse with
Probably.
the management and the quarterbacks. So if he doesn't, I mean, Rodgers wants him as a Jet, and nobody wants him as a Jet besides that. But I honestly, if they don't do Adams well, I hope he's able to get something situated.
There was something on Adam's side, a few things on Adam's side I made sure to put note as well, is that on 63% of targets on go routes that Devontae Adams, his 127 he had, were labeled as inaccurate, which is by far the most for any wide receiver. He averaged 0.24 yards per route and go routes, was dead last of 43 receivers. In comparison to Tyreek Hill, who was best at that with 4.1 yards per go route. And Aiden O'Connell had a 23% completion rate to such routes, which was 44th out of 48 quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's gross.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oof.
Also,
Don't
this
worry about
team relied heavily on the turnover battle, as I mentioned. They were 7-3 if they got a takeaway, but 1-6 if they couldn't get one.
Oh.
So, a team that relied on luck to win isn't looking great the next season.
A team in Las Vegas relying on luck to win.
Hey, fitting.
Yeah.
I heard that one before.
I feel like this team, again, if they win, they win. If they lose, they lose. This is a team that, again, I think will finish 9-8 or 8-9. But I mean, if they want to win, 9-8. But if they reach the halfway point, want to tank, I feel like you do have to move some assets around. Again, Tay is probably the biggest one you could probably move, but then you'd have to find the right suitor outside of the Jets. It's the biggest thing. But we'll see. Is the biggest thing. Who's to say? Lady Luck might shine tonight.
I would like this team so much more if they had a quarterback.
Maybe they'll be the ones to manage the dual tight end thing a little bit more. I wouldn't be surprised if they start just lining Brock Bowers up as wide receiver 2 instead of in the tight end slot, kind of like them and the Bills. Question marks at wide receiver, outside obviously of Devontae, but
could have been 3, have him like just running the slot at that point.
yeah.
Because Myers still did decently for them last year. Wasn't like great, but he did decently.
Oh, I just remembered something else. I didn't put this in my notes, but something I heard is that there's a lot of Raiders fans who were like, "Oh yeah, our defense is looking great. It's gonna be phenomenal." I mean, hey, look at what happened with the Browns last season. They had not so much issues on quarterback room, but still made the playoffs because of the defense. And I was thinking, like, that's because they had a historically great defense. That's been the best defense we've seen in like over 2 decades.
And
this
like
is not that defense.
Historically good O-line running back duo combination in some way of the word, but now they've gotten rid of the guy who's been the lead rusher and receiver outside of Devontae. So we'll see how that new management handles these ups and downs.
I forgot Devontae was their second best rusher.
Now, I will openly say this because we're about to move on to the next team. I completely forgot how this division took out last year, and I was surprised who we're going to next. I'll be very honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, you can thank or blame injuries on this. We can just move on right now as we go from the deserts of Las Vegas to the mountains, Rocky Mountain High over in Colorado, with the Denver Broncos, who are expected to face the 9th toughest strength of schedule, 13th toughest out of division, 10 spots tougher than last year's strength of schedule. Oh man, very tough second half of their season, by the way, with 6 of 9 of their last games being against expected playoff contenders.
Oh yeah.
Although the last one is against the Chiefs, who are probably going to be sitting their starters anyways.
They'll still lose it.
Yeah. The Broncos are forecast to win 5.5 games, favored in 2, underdogs in 15, with an average line of +4. Let's see now. They are terrible when it comes to rest. They are facing rest disadvantage in, I think, half their games. And, they also don't have a bye week, actually, because that doesn't matter for them because they're facing the Colts, who are coming off their bye as well. John Payton is here for a second year with offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi. It says second year. I'm pretty sure this is his first year, isn't it?
For who?
For Lombardi.
Is it his first or second? No, it is his second. That's right.
It's second, yeah.
Yeah. And Vance Joseph's also second year for defensive coordinator. On players, they lost Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver, safety Justin Simmons, who just signed with Atlanta, center Lloyd Cushenberry, and quarterback Russell Wilson. And key players they added are... there's edge John Franklin Myers from the Jets, I believe. And I guess you got quarterbacks added with Zach Wilson and your first-round pick, Bo Nix. And it's looking like Bo Nix is going to be the starter.
Yeah, he looked good in preseason. But, I mean, we all know that preseason is basic defensive looks. So, Kenny Pickett looked good
Denver.
Honestly, this team has, they have 3 running backs that were all, point getters last year in fantasy with Jaleel McLaughlin, Samaje Perine, and Javonte Williams.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll probably be more their identity, especially with the head coach they have now. They were the Steelers wanted Cortland Sutton, and they were not giving him up. So if he doesn't have a good year, he'll probably be asking to go elsewhere and get paid. But it's a big question mark on this team. Mm-hmm. They got Josh Reynolds from the Lions, he had a good year last year, and obviously they have Pat Surtain, who's their most established cornerback. But outside of that, I don't recognize a lot of big splash names. Maybe Alex Singleton is the next. Oh, here's Levi Wallace. Look, there.
Oh, hey. Finally found him.
But
Yeah, Patrick
outside of
Surtain is
their,
wasted on this defense.
yeah, outside of their running back room, I do not have a lot of confidence in this team.
This is the same thing I think with the Patriots right now. This is a bottom 5 team, obviously. You're not going to win a lot of games. You have to, lace up your boots and force your way through this season. There's probably going to be a lot of I imagine coaching moves in this offseason. I don't know if they want to, honest to God, stick with Sean Payton through a rebuild is the biggest thing.
I don't think he wants to.
I don't think he wants to either, and I don't like this man, but I was like, I don't think he'd sit through a rebuild is the biggest thing. I don't think he'd sit on like 3 years of possibly like being a bottom 5, bottom 10 team, and then like finally maybe have a good year or two. So I think it's going to be one of those situations where they're going to be good after he's gone, but not because, it's his fault. It's just this roster has a lot of holes that it needs to fill, and you can't do that in 2 years is the biggest thing, unless, you trade for a lot of picks.
I mean, this team also had a hamper on their rebuild because of that Russell Wilson acquisition. Because they lost draft picks that could have helped them build, and they still owe him $85 million in dead cap.
Yeah,
So that's a lot of money locked away they can't spend elsewhere.
Big props to Seattle, by the way. You guys turned that trade into a lot of
Exactly.
good players.
That looks stupid for Seattle at the beginning, and boy, they are the smart ones in the end.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about that team because I think
I am
that's
too.
But I
I
think them
weird
trading for
about
Sam Howell was big. I think
He
he'll-
finally gets away from that like death sentence of an offensive line.
Oh boy, I think one of the bigger things for let's talk about how the QBs
Mhm.
how Russell Wilson was like last. No, let's go with defense first, which was second worst in the league. It was terrible. They were second worst on EDSR and second worst on third down. Sorry, second best on third down somehow. Weird. But overall, the defense was last in like EPA per play allowed, last in yards per play allowed, last in yards per attempt allowed, and last in yards per carry allowed. Wow, they were gashed. And it's not like they were dealing with too many injuries.
No, their players just didn't want it, at all.
The team
I
gave
will-
up.
I will openly say this, though. I love when my fantasy players played this defense, because, oh boy, it was fun. But outside of that, this team, again, they didn't want to win and they didn't hate to lose. And it's just like, you're going to be like this, guys. You're probably going to lose a lot of players. You're going to lose a lot of, time, and your career is going to be shortened a little bit because, again, they're going to look at your stat sheets across the seasons and it's just like, yeah, why would we sign you? You played like shit in Denver. You didn't put in effort. That's why I also think. Oh, that's why I also see them move. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go
Sorry.
ahead.
To quote a certain new coach down in a certain retirement home state, they didn't have that fire in their gut.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I think that they truly also, if given the opportunity and you can get a good enough pick out of him, Patrick Surtain, Jr. or the second, you could probably get a good pick out of him because that's the only anchor on the defense you currently have.
You could probably get multiple like day twos as well. Like if you didn't want to push for that one, you could do a player and a couple of picks to try to get some weapons for Bo Nix or at least some protection.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Also, this leads back into the Steelers just because of who this involves. Is on that offense, Wilson almost never threw deep. It became obvious, and that it wasn't necessarily like there wasn't an option available. He just never wanted to throw deep, or he just didn't have the arm strength anymore. So he ended up having the second lowest rate of passes thrown over 5 yards and second lowest rate of passes thrown 11 to 20 yards, which very limited the offense on what they could do. At the same time, passes at or behind the line of scrimmage delivered minus 0.29 EPA per attempt. And on these attempts, Russ averaged 2.53 seconds to throw. Second highest time, only Justin Fields took longer. And these are short throws. Wilson was I mean, it's also a weird thing. Like Wilson technically was good at throwing mid-range because he had like positive EPA and like a pass rating of 119.8. He threw like 10 to 19 yards downfield. So, but he just didn't want to. It didn't seem like Sean Payton was telling him not to either. I think Sean Payton actually wanted him to throw deeper, but Wilson just refused. Wilson also threw the ball 27% of the time behind line of scrimmage, the highest rate of 509 quarterbacks since 2005. 62% of passes within 5 yards of line of scrimmage, second highest rate since 2005. And only 26% of passes went 5 to 15 yards down the field, lowest rate since 2005 as well.
Who let this man cook?
This sounds like a Matt Canada-led offense, in all honesty. Like,
it was offensive guru Peyton.
Yeah, so it's just like...
It's like, was their roster this bad that last year as well? Like, did they... I feel like they had it... Okay, I wasn't paying attention to their line as much. I know their defense hasn't changed a ton.
They also had receivers that just wouldn't hold on to the ball.
Yeah. They've had so many like good receivers that they drafted, or I'm sorry, potential good receivers that they drafted that turned out to not be as great, which is surprising. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Another thing notable for this team. Hey, another gambling team. 08 when they lost the turnover battle, 8-1 when they won it.
Damn.
That's not gonna go your favor next season. This season.
Oh boy! Imagine they have to go down the line and they end up with the mess that is Zach Wilson as well.
What's having to worry about turnover battle like? I don't. Huh?
Denver fans, watch a lot of SEC to see Jalen Milroe and Carson Beck and figure out which quarterback you like more if Bo Nix looks bad.
Who do we like better?
Look at Oklahoma and Texas now too. They're SEC schools.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Go for you guys. You know. Welcome to the big boy leagues now.
The last time we played an SEC school in a big bowl, who won that, by the way?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you over the multiple natties we just won.
Hey, nah, that's not good. Right, let's instead go to LA for the team that somehow is always the away team in their stadium, the Los Angeles Chargers.
Hey, this is what I was referencing, by the way, when I was like, they were 5-12 last year.
Yeah, they are expected to face the second easiest strength of schedule, both normal and non-divisional. 26 spots easier than last year's strength of schedule. Their schedule of defenses will go from 4th toughest to like 8th toughest, but it's going to be like a lot easier against the run, which Harbaugh is going to love. This team is forecast to win 8.5 games, favored in 9, underdogs in 8, average line of minus 0.3. As I just mentioned, Jim Harbaugh went from Michigan. He got to be the new head coach, and brought along old 49ers associates and old associate of his brothers, Greg Roman, to be the offensive coordinator. Yeah, there's no such thing as the NFL just only going for their bros, right? Defensive coordinator Jesse Minter, who is the former Michigan DC, is the new DC. This team lost Keenan Allen and Mike Williams for wide receivers. Linebacker room, they lost Kenneth Murray and Eric Kendricks. Tight end room, they lost Gerald Everett. Running back room, they lost Austin Eckler. And key players added, I noted, does Herbert count? Tight end Will Disley. Wide receivers DJ Mark and Ladd McConkey for the 2nd round pick. Running backs Gus Edwards and Jacob Dobbins. Oh, hey, 2 former Ravens running backs, huh, bud?
Yeah, they have the whole last year's room.
Cornerback Christian Fulton, edge Bud Dupree, linebacker Denzel Perryman, defensive lineman Poona Ford, and right tackle Joe Alt for the 1st round pick. Oh boy. Hey, like the Bengals, this is going to be a team that sees a... this is not the same as the Bengals. The Bengals have great wide receivers.
I was a little surprised to see Ladd McConkey ahead of Quentin Johnston. And
Harbaugh likes McConkey more because he's a physical receiver.
That's fair.
Much like Jerry Jeudy, Quentin Johnson has a bit of a problem not holding on to the ball.
Yeah.
Guess we didn't see him a lot last year because he was behind like 5 other wide receivers. And now he's wide receiver 1/2.
Forced to be.
Yeah.
And I'm always curious about the Herbert haters. Why they don't like him so much? Because he's a good quarterback when he plays.
That's all there is to it.
But what about the injury that the condition that they found that he has recently in his foot?
You will not find. So you might actually find bigger Herbert lovers than me, but I am up there. I will defend that man.
I'll defend Herbert too. Like he's
one of the best quarterbacks in that class.
Yeah. It's also just the thing of like, man, this team as a whole is snake bitten, huh? Like, the wide receivers always hurt. The defensive line always hurt. It's just who isn't always hurt on this team?
There was similar to actually the Bengals and Joe Burrow. Herbert has a new haircut as well. What do you guys think of him?
I know.
I haven't seen this. I gotta.
Oh, it was just.
Did he get rid of his
luxurious
locks as well?
He's got a short, like almost lesbian-looking haircut. I'm gonna say it. But he does. It kind of looks like something that I could go down to the place and be like, "My girlfriend's at home. Give me a haircut."
I want to look pretty. Give me the Herbert.
Give me the Herbert.
Give me the Herbert. Jesus.
I will let others speak on this team. I have nothing positive to say about this team.
That's fair.
I think there's an issue in this team with issues with injuries, having an early bye with it being in week 5. So they're gonna be now they're gonna be feeling it more than most teams down the line. Like
if they can stay healthy, and that is the problem with this team, is if they can stay healthy, they can be as good as I thought they could be last year.
Yeah, they could be a playoff team if they're healthy.
An injury-riddled team having a bye week 5 is so mean.
I think they have a pretty strong defensive starting, at least. Like they've got Asante Samuel, Derwin James, like Khalil Mack,
always injured
Bruno
players.
Ford. Yeah, Joey Bosa, who's the less talented Bosa.
When has Joey Bosa been healthy?
Speaking of injury-riddled team, adding DJ Chark, not the best addition.
This is the first team that DJ Chark has been on that was not represented by a cat, by the way. He was on 3 other teams, and it was
the most he's ever played in the season is 15 games, and that was only twice out of like the 4 years he's played. And he's only hit a 1,000 once. The rest have been like 500 or 700, and then like the other year where he hit like 4 games.
Oh, don't forget, they've got Brendan Rice. They have Jerry Rice's kid on the team. Let's see.
He's not. He's like a backup to DJ Chark.
Yeah, he's the third
like
string.
Number 2
I do think this team, by the way, has something that should help Herbert in that Joe Alt investment. So they have probably the best 2 tackles, the book and tackles in the league right now. And which is what Harbaugh's wanting, because he's going to be going for that Michigan power run game for sure. And
it's a little strange to let Eckler walk.
Yeah. I mean, it's because Eckler was declining.
Yeah.
And Eckler's not built for the running scheme they're going for. Eckler is a not a full workhorse back, he's a third down back. And
now he's a second string back.
Yeah. So, they wanted to... I mean, J.K. Dobbins, hey, another injury player.
Yep, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards were both very injury-prone when they were on the Ravens as well.
Yeah.
So,
going further into, their depth and injuries and stuff, if for any reason Herbert's not playing, that quarterback room is... Oh, God.
Is it still Houston Stick? I forget.
Houston Stick, Max Duggan, and Luis Perez.
Oh.
It is gross.
If injury luck goes in their favor for once, this is a good team. But God, is it hard to believe injuries are going to go in their favor?
It's hard with Chargers. They've never had any luck.
His picture legit looks like he's in a St. Louis Rams jersey. Luis Perez. He's 30 years old in this league. Damn, boy.
Oh, yeah, he was at UFL last year, I think.
Oh, was he?
But at the same time,
the Ram. I'm not gonna lie. I can see it now.
at the same time, with all we said, Jim Harbaugh's a proven coach. He's probably going to have the best season of any of these first year head coaches. I have to count him as a first year, even though he won a Super Bowl before, didn't he? Or at least went to the Super Bowl.
I do think that his tenure as a coach, I think that did kind of push me over the 50-50s doing the predictions, kind of being like, I think that with the coaching prowess, that's gonna.
I don't like Greg Roman as offensive coordinator because he'll have one good season, and then he gets figured out because he doesn't know how to adjust his script to the point that defensive players like, oh yeah, there'll be this play.
I like it more than I like. Fucking, I'm forgetting his name already. More
than Lombardi was.
No, God, he was on my team, and I'm already forgetting his name. Kellen Moore. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
I like it more than Kellen Moore. Because Kellen Moore was so goddamn predictable. Like, he was good for while he was timed here, but even then, it was like he was predictable even here.
We'll say for fantasy owners, hope you enjoy those first 5 weeks you'll get out of Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins before you have to figure out your next running back to put in this.
5 is generous.
Anything anyone else has to say about the Chargers? We have a minute left.
Not positive, no. You want me to use 60 seconds to tear apart this team? I will, but I'm good.
We can go ahead and move on to the AFC South then.
Yeah, the last thing I was going to say is hopefully Cameron Dicker continues to have a good year because I hope he remains a kicker for his entire career.
That's a Texas kicker right there. Let's go.
I want you to rival Adam Vinatieri at the end of your career.
All right, everyone. AFC South time with the winners of that division who surprised a lot of people. It is the Houston Texans, who are predicted.
I like them.
Yeah,
you got it right.
Predicted to face the 5th toughest strength of schedule and toughest out of the division schedule. 23 spots tougher than last year's strength of schedule, so there is stuff to worry about off the bat. Schedule defensive space will get tougher, going from the 15th toughest to 2nd toughest expected, and 17th toughest passing defense schedule and 6th toughest rushing defense schedule. Schedule opposing offenses will go from 8th toughest to easiest overall at least. And it's they're forecast to win 9.5 games, favored in 11, underdogs in 6, average line of minus 1.1. They are coming up. They face 2 short week road games. 1 game coming off a road primetime game. And coaching wise, is D'Amico Ryans for his 2nd year, Bobby Sloak for 2nd year as offensive coordinator, and Matt Berg 2nd year as defensive coordinator. Key players lost on defensive line. They lost Sheldon Rankins and Blake Collins. On edge, they lost Jonathan Bernard, who was a rotational player anyway. Linebacker, they lost Blake Cashman and Denzel Perryman. Run back, they lost Devin Singletary to Buffalo. Offensive line, they lost George Fant and Josh Jones, both left tackles, and left guards Michael Dieter and Scott Quessenberry, and cornerback Kareem Jackson. Players they added, though, are edges Daniil Hunter. God, he's going to be great with Williamson. And D'Amico Autry. They added cornerbacks Jeff Okuda and Kamari Lassiter with a 2nd-round pick. Wide receiver Stephon Diggs. Linebacker Aziz Al-Shair. And running back Joe Mixon. This is a roster to love. Hey, I'm a Stroud fan. I find him exciting, not just because of the Buckeye status. But man, I like this team. Oh God, that change in schedule difficulty.
I'm looking at the schedule here, and it's like you say they're favored in 11. It is hard to picture outside of 2 because that schedule topped up. I mean, I guess the Tennessee games too. But he topped the bottom. That schedule is disgusting.
It's a very much prove-it year for a lot of these players, especially you've got to back up what you did last year. I think they will, but again, it may not be as dominant as wins as the team would want. I think it's you have to grind these out a little bit, and you have to make the right plays, and again, rely on some of the veterans you have now, and then maybe some of the newer, younger guys like Stroud specifically has to prove that if he's going to be an elite quarterback in this league that people already kind of think he is, gotta back it up.
There's no sophomore slump for a lot of the rookie players from last year too.
Yeah.
That's usually a big drop.
They definitely have one of the more experienced veteran, like good O-lines in the league, just with Shaq Mason and Laramie Tunsil.
Yeah. Which is a weird thing. Remember, like, their offensive line was turnstile. I think they were the most injured line in the league. And
when Mills
they were
was
still
the
good.
This is probably going to be the easiest team to bandwagon on this year, besides obviously the Chiefs.
They've got some good depth at receiver too.
It's
gross.
Yeah, I was mentioning this earlier. They have a wide receiver one at every wide receiver position. Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and Stephon Diggs. I feel like if two of the other guys weren't there, they would still be like, we're great. We're confident.
Got Robert
in our wide
Woods,
receiver room.
Brown,
And Noah Brown.
Brownack. You've got Hutchinson, Brown, Mechie. What the fuck is this?
Noah Brown was a fantasy beast.
For wide receivers, I think Stephon Diggs needs to accept being wide receiver 3 because he was on a downturn last season in Buffalo, and Nico Collins and Tank Dell are younger and more explosive right now, so they're going to be seeing the ball more often, and Diggs needs to be okay with that. And not get into what people stereotype him as being.
I fully agree with that, especially because he can bring a veteran status to this receiver room and be like, hey, this, maybe this, try this. Like, you're a veteran, you've been there, you've been to like the playoff games, you've won the playoffs. Like, bring that to the receiving room. Bring experience, bring knowledge, bring motivation. Don't be that person you were up in Buffalo near the end or in Minnesota near the end. Be a positive light because, hey, the window for this team is wide open right now. There's a lot of rookie contracts. It's the biggest thing in the world. So I think this team could push heavily. But again, this is going to be a very much prove-it year for a lot of players on this team.
My biggest issue is their offensive coordinator, Slowick, who just... Hey, here let's look at CJ Stroud, who was the youngest quarterback to win a playoff game in NFL history, threw the most passing yard games in a game by a rookie in NFL history with 470, threw the most passes without an interception to start a career in the NFL history with 191, and had the lowest sack plus interception rate on third downs of all quarterbacks last season. And with all of these great things that show that he is a good quarterback going forward as well, Slowick ran the ball at one of the highest rates in the league, which made no fucking sense because the running backs were bad.
Yeah. Well, I think it's some... No, go ahead, Holly.
I was just going to say, I feel like Mixon was kind of one of their least value of pickups, like towards the team, because I feel like Dameon Pierce kind of was like aiming to be that next running back one, but like it's kind of hard to not pick up somebody who went to the Super Bowl very recently and was available pretty inexpensive. But I wouldn't be surprised if those two kind of switch around for that number one spot. But if they're actually able to run the ball, that's going to be very dangerous.
I will say, because Nate, you mentioned how heavily they ran the ball. As someone who had Dameon Pierce in fantasy last year, what a letdown, my guy.
Yeah,
you were supposed to be like transitioning from one season to another, like have that explosive everything. He wasn't hitting holes, he wasn't finding spacing, he wasn't finding, like, even when he got the initial cut and he had traction downfield, he just wasn't that good, which was annoying because it's like behind this offense and behind that line you're building, you should have been a very explosive back.
You should,
but you weren't.
And just going back in his history, looks like he last year also had ankle problems.
He did.
So we'll see how that impacts his game this year.
Like,
hopefully it don't.
Yeah, I do. Like, if this team can overcome like their schedule in front of them, and like take this next step that you want to see from a good rookie quarterback surrounded by talent, they can make a deep run in the playoffs. The issue is having to go overcome all that, having to not fall into the slumps mentioned, and having to fight against injury luck. Hope that goes better for you.
And
also, Bobby Slowick needs to realize this is not the 49ers offense. You do not have CMC as your running back. You cannot do what Shanahan does.
Or
The game's-
Debo as a receiving option. You could also run the ball.
Yeah, you have to give up on trying to be a run-heavy team and realize your strength is in the pass.
I'm kind of also a little bit nervous that with all of the success of CJ Stroud and like how explosive he was, like what about when he comes to the teams that have had coaches in the league for nearly 20 years, and like what if they are able to crack the code like the Niners did with the Eagles last year when Nick Bosa was in there in the locker room saying, this is exactly how you put pressure on this quarterback, do it, and then things kind of fell apart. So that could also, if one, I worry that it could be kind of a Jenga tower, like if Stroud is figured out and he's not able to show that explosiveness, that we are going to see the frustrated Stephon Diggs. We're going to see people coming out and immediately putting pressure on them. So this is going to be a very big year with very high expectations for a year two guy.
Yeah, Stroud did, by all means, struggle against pressure. He was, I believe, 26-27 against the pressure. But he was like top 5 when not dealing with pressure. So it's like they have a good offensive line that if it's healthy, will keep him up. And like he's a very smart quarterback who understands the routes to throw to quickly. So that also helps. It's still that thing of like natural pass rush is going to be the enemy of any quarterback, and it might be even more so for him.
Yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, I think we've covered basically everything for at least this team. Like,
Okay. Well, then let's go to the quarterback that was expected to reign supreme over this division with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are predicted to face the 15th easiest schedule, 23rd out of the division, 10 spots easier than last year's strength of schedule. They have a tough start to their season, having to go at Dolphins versus Browns, at Bills, and then at Texans for the first 4 games. First 8 games of 12 are against 2023 playoff teams, by the way. They are forecast to win 8.5 games, favored in 9, underdogs in 8, average line of plus 0.1. Coaching staff is Doug Peterson as head coach for the 3rd year, Press Taylor as offensive coordinator for 3rd year, and they have a new defensive coordinator in Ryan Nielsen, the former Atlanta DC. Key players lost, not really too much here. They lost, but it's still kind of big. They lost wide receivers Calvin Ridley and Zay Jones, and cornerback Darius Williams. And in additions, they made for a wide receiver Gabe Davis, Devin Duvernay, and used their first-round pick on Brian Thomas Jr., who's already turning heads in training camp though. They added safety Darnell Savage Jr. and cornerback Ronald Darby, center Mitch Morse, and defensive lineman Eric Armstead, edge Travis Gibson, and Mac Jones is their backup quarterback there. This is a team that was, I think we can all say, was pretty last season. And I don't know if they're going to be better or not this season. They might come back, they might not.
I'm going to be very honest with you. The most exciting things that ever happened in this stadium was wrestling and not football last year.
Yeah.
They couldn't put together good games, but overall this team was very lackluster. It's very annoying. I think their best addition last year that played well was Evan Ingram, is the biggest thing, especially because he floundered a lot for a long period of time in New York. But outside of that, man, subpar for a team that was supposed to honestly be a very high contender of a team, especially because they spent a lot of money this offseason and the previous offseason. Especially Trevor Lawrence now inking a deal that made him, I think, top 5 highest paid quarterbacks in the league right now. I don't think he deserves that type of money because, you're not playing that great, kid. I'll be honest. You did have an Urban Meyer year, but outside of that, you've been good, but you haven't been great. You're not really proving anything. And I think it's, again, the first 8 weeks are going to be a very big telling point, especially the first 4, like you mentioned, Nate. You better win at least 2 of those gagames. You don't want to start the season out 0-4, 1-3.
Their season is lost if they don't win 2 of them.
Yeah, you can't start out the season 0-4, 1-3, and expect to just come back in that division playing again an Indianapolis team.
Again. Yeah, like they had that division locked up and then just threw it away.
Mm-hmm. So this is going to be a very rough season for them, I feel like, unless they know how to win football games again.
I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like Trevor Lawrence was very pressured last season. Like he had a lot of sacks. And
Yeah,
I
the
feel
offensive
like,
line was not great either.
yeah, adding Mitch Morse will probably be kind of a factor to hopefully correct that. But I'm not so sure in the others.
They did have to revamp the wide receiver room because Lawrence lost more like expected points added than any other QB in the league due to drop passes. Like this is more than Mahomes, who
So they added Gabe Davis.
Yeah, it is one of those
making less than Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, yeah.
Trevor Lawrence also lost 14 fumbles too. To be fair,
14 fumbles.
yeah.
As someone who picked
I
up
realized it was that bad.
As someone who picked up Gabe Davis in fantasy last year, he is either having a 28-point game or he is not going to have a single catch. He literally had 2 weeks back-to-back with 0 points, which kind of made me a little upset at him.
Valid, honestly.
Brian Thomas Jr., I feel like, is a good pickup out of LSU from the draft. But I don't know if they're going to be able to get that over-the-top explosiveness like they had with Calvin Ridley.
Oh, that's
Especially because Christian Kirk, I feel like, operates better as a wide receiver too. He's that slot guy more so. He's kind of just the size to fit there, but I don't know who's really going to be the wide receiver one, who's going to be the one that's able to take the Patrick Surtains and the Minkah Fitzpatricks that are just going to just mess you up if you get in their area even a little bit. So if they can kind of sort through that, then Trevor Lawrence will have a good time. But if they can't get available, we're just going to see their O-line be different next year.
Mm-hmm.
Pulling it up, it wasn't just 12 fumbles last year. It was 12 the year before as well, and 9 his rookie year.
He does not have good ball security.
No,
31
33 in his
fumbles.
career. He has had so far in 3 years.
That's not good. That's Josh Allen-esque, but you're not playing Allen-esque, so...
I mean, to his credit, he was constantly banged up last season, but there's still some other issues to go along with that are just part of his own mechanics.
Yeah, he's averaging 13 interceptions and 11 fumbles per year, which is not good.
You don't want to have basically 25 turnovers a year. That's really bad.
And they've got good guys to rush the quarterback on defensive side, but I don't like Darnell Savage is the most like tenured person in their secondary. I don't really recognize a ton of the other names, but that could just be because they've been on the Jaguars for a while and have just been doing their job details.
Again, it is the Jaguars. Like for a long period of time, they just weren't very good. So it's like it's one team you just kind of also just write off because of history.
That's one of those names I for sure recognize, at least on the line.
Yeah.
Trayvon Walker just sure deserved the #1 overall pick.
I
still don't know why.
Trayvon Walker.
That is one of the weirdest picks in like recent draft history, because it's like you had Hutchinson as someone you could pick, like the clear-cut, obviously best defender, and then you picked someone who wasn't expected to go until the middle of the first round.
Yeah, imagine they called him and he's like, "I'm going to Detroit. Get out of here."
Yeah, Detroit ran to the podium to pick up Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I believe it was talked about that like, hey, yeah, he's a work in progress. He'll get better, as we progress through the first season or two. It's like, you don't want that with a #1 pick. You don't want to have to build this player up. You want them, especially again, #1 pick, NFL ready.
And if a top 3 pick should be a starter, an impactful starter.
Yeah, an NFL ready player. That's why they're the number 1 through 5 picks. NFL ready, go hit the ground running. It shouldn't be like we'll build around him, we'll give him time, we'll see how he develops. Like, no.
The Cons are great at business decisions. We can all agree on that, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. best.
It's not great that one of the biggest draft storylines was just people making fun of, was it Tony Khan that was in a fake cast?
Hey, come on! If you take a pile driver on national television, Nate, I feel like you'd also be wearing it.
Kayfabe is still alive, right? Question mark.
Yeah, the guy, he was like, "Oh, my neck is broken." Meanwhile, he's twisting his head around.
And then it didn't help that he's like, "I'm gonna make this about myself and wrestling and shit on the other company," and then call the other guy like the such and such of professional wrestling. It's like, you probably shouldn't be. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna say it, but it's like, you probably shouldn't be saying this during the NFL draft, where the biggest thing is football right now.
Hey, I think it also shows just how we feel about this team, that we kind of like gave up on talking about them.
I will say though, like, this Duvernay signing, great for returning. Give him that.
True.
All Pro Double D.
Let's just move on for now. There's a minute left.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about them anymore.
That's fair.
All right,
Also,
let's go to
the 10-3 Patriots right now over the Eagles. I noticed that was going on.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Season going on.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Okay. Let's go ahead and go to where draft day. Well, not draft day. A big part of the draft program, since measurements and combine are done at the stadium. Let's go to Indianapolis Colts, who are a team I might like. I don't know. They're predicted to face the 8th easiest strength schedule, 7th easiest if you remove divisional games. 3 places tougher than last year's actual strength schedule. They are forecast to win 8.5 games. Underdogs 9, favored in 8. Average line of plus 0.4. Let's see now. They have James Steichen returning for head coach for second year. Jim Bob Cooter, second year as OC. And Gus Bradley, third year as DC. Players that he lost are Zach Moss at running back and Gardner Minshew at quarterback, so not the most impactful losses for them. Quarterback they gained is Joe Flacco. They're going to enjoy those 2 first games before the other side of Flacco shows. Edge, they got Leatu Latu from the first round, who only went so far down in the draft because he was medically retired from breaking his neck at one point. And wide receiver Adonai Mitchell in the second round.
Medically retired because he broke his neck?
Yep.
That's crazy.
Okay.
It was so offense loaded this year.
Hey, I have to ask though, can anyone name a defensive back on this team?
A defensive back? No.
Yeah. This is probably the worst defensive back room in the league. And
Anymore.
Oh, okay, they have okay.
But he's their nickel. He's the slot coverage, so he kind of plays linebacker more so.
This is a team that throws some question marks out there because again, it's like I liked what Anthony Richardson did last year, the bit he played, but after watching the first game and how this man was playing football, I was like, he's gonna get hurt.
Yeah,
it looked bad.
He did.
And he did.
We also have. He was electric. He was like the best quarterback in fantasy, at least, for those 4 games. The issue is, he wasn't a passer.
He no self-preservation.
He threw. I think he only threw to the left side of the field like once or twice. I'm not even exaggerating. And he had terrible accuracy issues already. Like he had a completion rate of 7.7% under expected. Not great.
They also got rid of French, so they can't have French fries anymore. They were the French fry team. French isn't here anymore.
And
what the heck?
So it also doesn't sound like Anthony Richardson is really improving on his accuracy. If you listen to some training camp, well, some reporters are like, "Oh yeah, he's much improved." Others like, "God, he missed like 10 easy throws in a row."
So kind of worried that he's going to go back to the rushing aspect and the holding onto the ball too long aspect.
I know we'll talk more about it next week, but on that note, just what's happened with AR3 so far, it's just, and with how Daniels has played in college, it does not give me hope for his NFL career.
Sometimes the raw quarterback turns into Josh Allen. Sometimes that's Danny Dimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, again, this is going to be a middle-of-the-road team. I think they're going to win the easier games, but who's to say? I would like for Richardson to play the entire season to see how he actually plays and maybe to progress without the season. Because this is still, I would still basically consider this his rookie season. Because, again, 4 games is not a high bar to judge him as a quarterback. But we'll see is the biggest thing. But you have a good receiver in Pittman. You have Taylor still, but
Josh Downs, Alec Pierce. They've got a couple of guys that are a little,
be good for them.
a little untrained, they haven't really had the time with like a veteran quarterback either. So
I don't think
it's
their tight end room is doing.
I think Shane Steichen can still coach up this offense. Philadelphia definitely misses him.
who
But,
the hell
yeah.
is Kalen Grants? I thought they were all in on Jelani Woods and Mo Alley Cox. Why'd they bring in someone else and have him starting before him?
Highland Grant's in 26. What was he?
But yeah, this will probably be another good offense, just a terrible defense. They have a good.
No, he's always
The line isn't terrible. It's again the defensive backfield I worry about because that means there's a good chance people are going to throw over this. So they're gonna have to win.
Yeah, they don't really have a lot of depth behind Jonathan Taylor either. Trey
Yeah.
Sermon.
And Jonathan
who's
Taylor,
questionable.
an injury question mark now.
Yeah.
Always a health question mark.
I mean, it looks like they drafted Cranston in 21.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, okay.
So they've just held on to 3 tight ends for multiple years. Weird.
Oh, I also just looked at their schedule. It's their schedule again too. Their first 8 games are Texans at Packers, Bears, Steelers at Jags, at Titans, Dolphins, and at Texans. And then they finish their schedule at Vikings, Bills, at Jets, Lions, at Patriots, at Broncos, Titans, at Giants, and Jaguars. So they're gonna face 3 teams outside of the cold, and this is a dome team.
Oh yeah.
So they'll lose I can for sure they're gonna lose week 5 and they'll win 18 because those 2 results always go that way.
Yeah.
They always lose in Jacksonville and they always win in Indy against Jacksonville.
Yeah.
That just always happens.
Yeah, that's how they did make the playoffs. That one playoffs 2 years ago when they threw it away
Yeah.
in Jacksonville. Yeah.
They should have absolutely blown them out of the water.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, I just think the offense will be good, not great. The DB backfield looks really rough. So I think again, if you're facing good 2 veteran quarterbacks, they're gonna tear them apart. And again, AR has to stay healthy, but if not, looking for another rebuild, kids.
Yeah, Quiddy Pay and DeForest Buckner are good,
Yeah,
but I don't think they're good enough to carry the whole
Yeah.
defense.
they're still quality. It's just that you prefer them to be rotational at their age.
The
Yeah.
problem is they're also on the same side of the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they've got a good couple of right tackles, or wait, they're on the left.
Well, yeah, I mean, if the
What?
other team's got good right tackles, then yeah, and right guards. Then they'll,
Yeah. I mean,
they'll hold.
this is a team that could either be fighting to win the division or be looking at trying not to be last. This is one of the toughest teams to figure out and how they're gonna go.
Honestly.
I think the next team is the hardest team to figure out, honestly.
You know what? You're not wrong about that.
I don't. I think that they're not gonna do well. Personally,
Yeah,
they
me
might do
either.
a little better, but not well enough.
We'll say before we move on, it's like the Colts for a long time. Again, we're a very much winning team, but the carousel of quarterbacks for 6 or so years did not help this team at all. Genuinely, you couldn't decide on an actual quarterback younger than 35 outside of Carson Wentz is a very telling move, and it's a very sad move.
You wouldn't have to worry about that if you just gave the franchise one you had of an offensive line.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he had to retire early.
They learned that lesson way too late.
Mm-hmm. It's probably not fun when you wake up and your body hurts and you have to go into work and you know your body's going to be hurting even more afterwards. because you're just getting taken out every single other play. But hey, that's the Colts for you.
Let's see, I'll find it.
They're used to shitty ownership stuff.
Oh wow, I just remember this team also only had like 3 wide receivers on the roster at like August 30th before the season started. Wow, really?
What?
Yeah. I don't know why, but that was the thing. If anything else you want to say? We have about a minute left. We can just move on if we want to.
I mean, yeah, I don't have anything else to say, honestly.
Not a thing.
All right. Well, it's time to go ahead to Tennessee as we tighten on up, everyone, or tie-tune, depending on how this goes. With the Tennessee Titans are predicted to face the 7th toughest strength of schedule, 8th toughest non-divisional, 8 spots tougher than last season. They are schedule of defenses they're going to be facing is about the same that they had to deal with last season. Schedule of offenses will actually get tougher by about 10 spots from 24th to 14th. Although run offense they're going to be facing are going to go from 28th to toughest to 18th, so that's actually worse for them. They're forecast to win 6.5 games, favored in 1 game, underdogs in 16. Average line of plus 3.6. There's nothing rest-wise noteworthy of them, but for coaching staff, they are starting very new here with Brian Callahan, the former Cincinnati offensive coordinator, taking over as head coach, and will be calling plays as well. New DC is Bernard Wilson, the former Baltimore DB coach, who was either first or second choice for Baltimore to be the new DC, since he was directly under the old one. Key players lost were quarterbacks Ryan Tannehill, or remained of him at least. Linebacker Aziz Al-Shaair, cornerbacks Sean Murphy-Bunting and Christian Fulton, running back Derrick Henry, probably the most notable departure, and right tackle Chris Hubbard. Players that they added are wide receivers Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd, cornerbacks L'Jarius Sneed and Chidobe Awuzie, center Lloyd Cushenberry, drafted Alabama left tackle J.C. Latham in the first round, added running back Tony Pollard for whatever he'll amount to, linebacker Kenneth Murray, and in the second round they got another starter for defensive tackle and De'Andre Sweat. This is one of the toughest teams to look at, and this is one of the ones where after I looked at the skill edition select, wait, do I actually like this team more than I thought I did? Because I was like, oh, terrible team, obviously bottom 5 in the league. And I was like, I mean, there's actually some stuff to like now that I look at this.
If they were smart, they'd be putting Tyjae Spears as the number 1 in the running back room, and Pollard would be the 2. Pollard, even though he did get to 1,000, doesn't do as well as the number 1,
which is something that should definitely be speaking volumes. So it's like you were so good the previous year, and then you get that starting job, and you just weren't good. Just again, you said that he got to 1,000, but it wasn't like a strong 1,000. It was just like he kind of just crossed the line at the very end. I also don't trust a quarterback who puts mayonnaise in his coffee. So
hey, you got that sponsorship out of that.
Yeah, but still.
I mean, if you want some other stuff not to like about Will Levis, is then in the 9 games he played, he had a 58.4% completion rate, achieved 1,808 yards with 7.1 yards per attempt, 8 passing touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 57 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown, and 7 fumbles.
I will openly say that I very much hate that we made him look like the next fucking best quarterback in the league last year when he came in and played us. He made us look like a joke, and it bummed me out a lot because he played like shit the rest of the year. So I think he has glimmers of greatness, but we'll have to see. Is the biggest thing. He has a good receiver room now.
Yeah,
added Boyd, pretty good for having him as a wide receiver 3 of all things.
Yeah, you still have DeAndre Hopkins too. So
yeah, what remains of Hopkins is still good.
Yeah.
Honestly, Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins were kind of like side by side on their like how good they were in the NFL in my mind for quite a while. So it's a little odd to see them on the same team now, like with them being like that generation that's like almost out of the NFL. So we'll see if that impacts them negatively if they get a little more hurt. But they still have Burks and Westbrook-Akine, who they drafted to them a couple years ago. So
For
the
sure.
olds get too old. They've got some youngs.
Yeah, so one of the things I think are actually helpful
And Kyle
for this team is that Bill Callahan is here as the new offensive line coach. And with this, like, J.C. Latham pick and already having some good linemen on there as well, that's a great line likely to shape itself out as the season goes. Good skill position to protect your quarterback.
Gromsky.
And the coordinator comes from the McVay tree. So whoever's going to be RB1 is probably going to be the only one they actually really use. The other one's going to see only a handful of snaps. But more importantly is that we're going to likely see them try to emphasize more on the early downs and add like a lot more physicality to how they try to do games, because McVay's stuff, we love physical, like, skill position players who will go ahead and do additional blocking. I mean, that's why they picked up wide receivers. That's why the Rams have wide receivers who could all block. But yeah, Will Levis was one of the better quarterbacks in the league when it came to first down. He was average on second down, and he was terrible on third down. So it's a whole thing of, like, they need to make sure to play into his strengths more, try to find, like, some creative ways to get him receivers open downfield, because he likes to show off his arm too.
Yeah. Well, again, now his deep threats, if he wants to take those shots downfield.
I think Will Levis almost like placed this villain arc upon himself as well, like without him going in the first round like he was expecting to. So that I was a little like perturbed by. I mean, know your worth. If he thinks that he's a round one and capable of being a starter, then go off. But like, it seems like he's like intentionally carrying this like looming over him where he's going. He's like, I've got to prove this to this team. Yeah. So if he doesn't, he has two people behind him that I bet that the front management won't hesitate to throw in behind him since he's so young. So we'll see how he handles this year being the documented starter from day one.
Call me a little biased, but one of the additions I do see that I do remember that they brought in on the defensive side, and Tennessee, if you want to send him back over to us, feel free. Chidobe Awuzie, who's been great for Cincinnati, was part of their Super Bowl run. They didn't win, but help them get there.
Yeah, Chidobe Awuzie,
and with our corners,
with Snead as well.
Yeah, but
he was a cornerback for your team, right?
Yeah, he started with us, and then he went to Cincy. I think his first year there is when they went to the Super Bowl. Yep. So again, if they want to send him back over at any point, we've had issues with like our secondary staying healthy and just in general. I'd love him back. Thank you.
That's entirely fair.
They got Quandre Diggs.
Sorry, go ahead.
Hey, yeah, they got Quandre Diggs too.
Yeah, it's just the pickup of Quandre Diggs from the Seahawks is interesting as well, since he's now 31. Dang, this guy's older than me.
I will say, like, having Snead and Awuzie brought in is probably going to help the defense that was one of the better ones in the league last year, honestly. Like, they were top 10 and quite a few stuff. They were just, like, one of the 5 worst in pass defense, but you got a better defense back room now. That should help out.
Quietly, really good pickups for the secondary. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
just the whole thing is like, man, when I look at the pickups, when I look at this roster, it's like, God, David, don't get me to think this could be a good team. Don't get me to think there's hope here. This should be the last place team in the division.
They should be, but they might not be. Yeah, honestly, that might be the Jaguars at this point.
It's hard to say, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think Will Levis is their future quarterback. I didn't see anything from his rookie year to get me expecting great things from him, honestly. But hey, I could be proven wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I see. Yeah. It's going to be the backup, Mason Rudolph.
Oh God, no! Not the
racist. Get him in there. Get Rudolph in there. He took us to the playoffs last year.
I'm still sad that Malik Willis didn't work out. And
Me too.
I'm a little
He
biased
was-
because I haven't been in Dynasty, but still.
He was higher ranked than Kenny Pickett in that.
That whole class wasn't great at all.
Yeah, it
That
was a
whole
terrible
quarterback class. They should have all been third rounders, but I don't make the money.
Yeah.
I will say, at the same time, it's also weird that Vrabel even got fired in the first place. But I guess if he didn't get picked up as anything other than an assistant to another team outside of Browns, then he probably wasn't as respected as insiders kept on saying he was. Or he's just waiting for another year.
Or he's too like strong of a personality for people to think. Like I think that's happened with Belichick. Like people just aren't willing to give up what he wants of the team. I kind of feel that it would be the same for Vrabel, but I thought that he worked the defense well with
Yeah.
the Titans, but obviously not good enough.
He to me gives off a lot of the Dan Campbell like esque energy. I feel like that type of energy wants to fire up your team, but sometimes you can overdo it is the biggest thing, and that will cost you to lose the room.
Both
And
former
that's
players.
the biggest thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
So look out, possibly Detroit, but right now you guys are doing a lot better than the Titans have been the past few years.
Also,
mean-
looking at it, they don't have a single primetime game at all.
That's
Oh, that
not
might change,
surprising.
honestly.
That might change for like as the season goes on, but and also like obviously week 18 isn't decided for anyone at the moment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But as it stands, they don't have a single one.
Yeah.
Someone will get injured and they'll have a hot streak, or DeAndre Hopkins will have nearly 1,000 yards and they'll be like, put him on the screen.
As it stands, the closest they have is like they have the earlier of the 2 Monday games week 4. That is the closest they
Yeah.
have to primetime.
But that's not really a primetime game. You're just playing on a Monday.
Yeah.
All right, though. Is there anything else anyone would like to say? Like, any finishing thoughts? Anything you'd like to get back to real quick?
Not on this team.
I mean,
No.
overall for the AFC.
Yeah,
Sorry that the IU thing hasn't happened, or probably never will.
Probably ever.
I think at this point he's a Niner for the year.
I would like to
Until
see
the deadline.
I would like to see some surprises this year, honestly, out of the AFC. Like, give me a team that's not projected to do very well, make a playoff push.
There always
That's
are
fun.
those teams.
Who do you
Yeah.
think out of the AFC that we've kind of got less hopes for out of them? Who do you think would be the most likely to make a push? Would it be the Titans with their roster?
I think if Will Levis can put it together, yeah, the Titans.
It might be the Titans, honestly.
They've put a lot of money into this team the past 2 years. I
Mhm.
clearly see it be the Titans.
And what's a team that should be good that we think might actually be bad? It's always a weird thing because like the Bengals only missed the playoffs because Burrow got injured. The Chargers got bad because they lost Herbert.
It could be
I-
the Dolphins.
In my eyes, that it probably will be the Chargers, though. At least for how I view the team, it'll be the Chargers.
I have to agree. I think it's the Chargers until proven differently. Unfortunately,
I'm talking about like a playoff team, like the playoff team that.
Playoff
Well,
teams. Let's
actually,
take a look here. Let's pull up.
I
I'd say the Dolphins is a knee-jerk reaction, just
Yeah.
because
I think it's the Bills out of that division, personally.
that's fair. That
I'm probably
very
lean
much-
more to Dolphins over Bills myself. Dolphins is the one less likely to make the playoff.
I don't like saying this because it makes me feel bad. What if the Ravens? What if they just kind of fumble the bag?
Could
Oh
be-
yeah, I did already say the Ravens. I think. Might
Yeah, you
actually
did
be
say they were gonna
fourth
finish
place.
fourth.
You had
Like,
them going fourth.
Yeah.
I think they'll
Yeah.
be like 10 wins and out of the playoffs.
Which is
honestly,
unfortunate.
It could be a situation where they have X planned for Derrick Henry, but he has the year that he had last year and not the year he had 5 years ago.
yeah.
Like they could plan so much for him, and what if the first 3 times they run something for Derrick Henry, they get 3 and outs? Like they have to change that, and like their coaching staff knows that well enough. So like, what do you do in that situation if you get backed into that corner? Do you try to do more RPOs? Do you try to stick in the pocket? I don't know. It'll definitely be interesting to see if their game plan that it feels like they've put their whole offseason into isn't allowed to take off of the ground.
Yeah,
So
full on
it
agreement with that.
very much so.
Yeah,
could
there's
be.
also just the chance that like the defense just doesn't come anywhere near the levels. Like with all the departures, the new coach who was nowhere near their first choice. All these like things there.
But yeah, you said the
They don't have a
fourth
defense.
choice.
Yeah.
On the
Actually,
IU
third
they
choice
look
since it
like
was their DB coach and DL coach, the defensive line coach they wanted.
On the Ayuk thing, though, I forgot I saw this the other day, but I'm loving that the Steelers' backup plan for if that doesn't work out, and it probably won't, is to have a lovely reunion with Juju.
I kind of hope not.
His knees are so far gone, unfortunately. I don't
we got the best years out of that guy, and I
Yeah.
appreciate him for
It's
it.
gonna
But
be so weird to see Tomlin somehow bring the Steelers to another winning record.
With the schedule they have at the end of the year, they bet if
I
they,
know
they want that, they better win early.
they gotta have at least like 6 or 7 wins by like week 10. for
I'm
them
prepared to hear to talk about.
really push.
I'm prepared to hear that Week 9 talk about how the Steelers are winning the AFC North and might lock up the first seed overall, just to see that December
say well.
collapse.
Boom, 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 boom. It'll be. I'm very. Well, I think we know the NFL did it because of Hard Knocks, the in-season Hard Knocks that they'll be doing across the entire AFC.
Oh,
North.
yeah, that's right.
So, kind of feels like they're gonna be focusing on like less of the Bengals and the Browns and more so the Ravens and the Steelers at that time. So I'm like,
Yeah.
pile it on. Let's see how they handle it.
Oh, man, that's a weird thing. Granted, well, I was confused about the idea. I also was confused about like preseason Hard Knocks, but I actually enjoyed that one for the Giants. It was actually a fun look.
Yeah.
Granted, the Giants revealed way too much about their draft process.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe don't reveal your draft process as asking your family of all things like, hey, who should we draft? It's like,
Probably don't show your
Also-
draft board at all either.
yeah, that as well. It's like,
Jerry Jones also does that all the time for some fucking reason.
yeah. It's like, don't worry, they're not gonna take from us. It's like, they might.
Yeah, I still remember it was like 2 or 3 years ago. Jerry Jones, after round 1, decided to make a press conference for himself to talk about the draft, and you can see the board behind him where they had like the players' names clearly visible. And the next day, the first pick was who the Cowboys had next on their board.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, God.
Hey, we can go ahead and talk more about the Cowboys and the weirdness of Jerry Jones next week, though.
Yeah.
Here we
Next
have
time.
to, though.
Yeah, we do.
This was fun to do. Go ahead and wrap up a bit here. Thank you all for joining. We're looking forward to doing
Yeah.
NFC and overall predictions later as well.
Mm-hmm.
Have a fantastic time, everyone. Thank you all for watching as well. Hope you all have a fantastic time as well. And we hope that your team does better than we thought, or your rivals do worse than we expect as well.
Fuck the Saints.
The entire NFC East, but the Cowboys.
Have
Fuck the
fun.
Browns,
I
you're
have
not
no
getting
attachments.
Super Bowl.
I had to
Fuck the
solve
Browns.
I was solved by attachments because of a quarterback choice.
Woo! Making decisions based off your team making bad decisions. Woo!
Yay.
My team makes them all the time.
Go
What
NFL. I need that.
No, don't go NFL.
Yeah,
No,
fuck Roger
absolutely
Goodell,
not.
though.
Oh, hold on, Holly. Who's that?
Kitty cat.
This is Stormy.
Hi,
He's
Stormy.
been sitting on my lip for a little bit. He's a little old man. Say hello.
Oh, look
Say
at
hello.
him.
Coming to say goodbye with us.
With his little
Go, Stormy.
eyeliner. Oh.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye,
bye
thank
friends.
y'all.
Bye.
See y'all next time.